Like we have a little bit more stability with the connection this time around. So sorry about the false start. Now we're ready to properly go. I'm just gonna update Twitter and we'll jump into the game and I'll explain why I'm so late and just generally apologize for the state of everything. So today turned out to be different from what I was expecting. But I did want to get a broadcast in, even though, I mean, at this point, even with a late start, I would normally be finishing around this time. So it's very unlikely I'm going to be streaming for the same, hey, the Eyes of Sin. I don't think there's any chat. I actually kind of doubt that there will be any chat tonight because it's so much later. I'm usually finishing at this point, even with a late start on Fridays. But thank you very much for the host, the Eyes of Sin. If you do follow on Twitter and things like that, I technically got a little bit of another stream in, and that was I did a Periscope. I do those occasionally, and I figured one of the reasons for that was it's not the first time it snowed. There have been a couple of, or actually no, there's just one time where it snowed, but it didn't really stay around, whereas now it's kind of stuck on the ground and whatnot. The drawback with those is that my hands get very cold when I do them, but I tried to talk a little bit about sort of an elaboration on something that somebody commented on the Studio Closure blog that I put out, and I tried to add some clarification in terms of it's basically about the idea of game prices coming down and whether or not that's overall a good thing or a bad thing. As a consumer, usually we consider that a good thing, but if your job is to sell games, you know, you are sort of looking at a reduction in terms of the value of the thing that you make your livelihood from. And so there can be some ways where price decreases are actually a good thing, and there can be some where it's not a good thing. And I tried to articulate how the ability to produce the same quality game with fewer resources, so basically productivity improvements brought on by better tools. So for instance, you know, the version of the Unreal Engine with which Mass Effect 2 was made, the license that BioWare paid for this is probably much more than what you would be paying for the Unreal Engine now. These are generally positive things, and I tried to articulate why I felt that was. But I was very low on battery too. So this is technically the second stream of the night if you like watching that sort of thing. But yeah, I am starting quite late, and unfortunately there's no balance. There's probably not going to be an equivalent duration for the stream, because that would mean I'm basically up until 5 o'clock in the morning streaming. And I actually have a few things that are stream related that I will be doing over the weekend, which hopefully will delight you, but it does mean that I need to cut back a little bit on this Friday. So even if the Eyes of Sin is the only person in here and enjoying it, we'll do the best that we can. And I'm going to be doing something new with Mass Effect. This is going to be a little bit of a trial to see whether or not doing a story mission at the beginning and then letting some of the other activities be an opportunity for me to do the debrief on what we saw in the story. This will be a nice little test of that method. And even though I probably won't get sort of the full duration of a cast out of this, it'll be I think it'll be a worthwhile little experiment, so hopefully you guys enjoy it. Alright, let's check our unread messages. Appreciate the help from Lisbeth Bynum. Hey Shepard, I heard about what you did on Ilium, and I wanted to thank you for helping out. Jus Hope one more time. We're surviving, if barely. Most of Exogeny left, but I stayed behind as an attaché to make sure that nothing was left of the thorium. We don't need that problem again. Also, I'm really sorry that I shot at you. I'm pretty sure I said that, but I wanted to reiterate it. Good luck and thanks. Juice Hope is alive again because of what you did. Sincerely, Lisbeth Bynum. Alright. I don't think there'll be anything else.
Commander, you've received a new message at your private terminal.
Thanks, Kelly. I already know.
You had me so worried when you were trapped on the collector ship. Thank goodness for EDI.
That sounds like more than just professional concern, Kelly.
You're more than just my commander. You're my friend. EDI brought you back to me. If she had a body, I'd give her a big hug.
The Normandy crew delivered, including you.
You're too kind. We were there to help, but EDI gets the credit this time. The Illusive Man made sure EDI was installed for this mission. Now I see why.
Oh, why don't you go marry
How
him?
may I help you, Commander?
Is there anything I should know?
Nothing right now. Anything else, Commander?
That'll be all.
It's always nice chatting with you.
Alright. Probably just going to Ilium to do the next recruitment mission seems to be the best option here, so... I seem to remember really enjoying this mission too. So, Ilium is a classic garden world, developed to serve as the entrepot between the Terminus systems and the Asari republics. To abet this trade, the normally stringent customs laws of Council space on product safety, prescribed materials, and sapient trafficking are relaxed. Officially, Ilium is not an Asari world. It is colonized and operated by Asari corporate interests. This gives it the same legal latitude enjoyed by the human corporate research enclaves of Noveria. Ilium is one of the youngest Asari colonies, settled during the 7th expansion wave. The first child born on the world is now only now reaching her middle age. The world is hot and massive. Ground settlement is only possible at the higher polar latitudes. In more equatorial locations, the population is housed in arcology skyscrapers to escape the heat of the surface. I also forgot one of the things that's so interesting about planets like... So I think Ilium was the planet where I became really interested in the Mass Effect world, because there were just so many ideas kind of going on in the background that that interested me. But I think in a broader sense too, one thing that I have enjoyed... Whoa! There we go. I think one of the things that really kind of got my attention, especially this time around, I think I got a new... Okay, so we had the Vindicator... We'll try the Viper. I think I'm a little too old-fashioned with my weapons, to be honest, but... I'm just going to assume the AI picked the right weapons. But yeah, so... Sorry, what was I going with this? I've sort of realized now, with the benefit of having played this game once before, you have there was that first place we went to. It's not it's the space station built out of the mine. Why can't I remember the name? Pharos doesn't seem right. Anyways, it's where we picked up Mordrin and Garrus, I believe. But yeah, I like it when they give you multiple missions on a planet. Like, I think Ilium is one of the more interesting places where you go, and I don't know if you have multiple missions on it because it's an interesting planet where they put some effort in, or or alternatively, if it's you know, if it's, you know, it's interesting because there's multiple missions that happen on it. But one way or the other, I know this is one that that really got my attention. Isosin says either that or the young subordinate wants to have a flit through the cosmos with the ship, computer, and Shepard.
Commander, a pleasure to see you again.
Thank you, Sean
Can I help
LeBlanc.
you with something?
Omega is exactly what I was thinking of. Great to see you. Yes, hello. Guys, I'm going to take a quick minute here because I don't get a chance. Where are we? Okay, so Sean LeBlanc is and sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, but somebody I've met in Ottawa. I've seen him watch the channel once before, but because I've got this terrible habit, well, it's not a terrible habit actually. So way back when I first started with streaming, I wanted to be friendly, and I would take a look at people who came into the channel, and I'd always say hi to them, and I would notice people would go away because some people just like being like they like lurking, they like watching, they don't want to actively be part of it. And as soon as somebody becomes conscious that oh God, they know I'm here, it's very off-putting. So I've learned my lesson, and I don't do that. But seeing as he's now spoken up, I'm going to take a chance to present his portfolio to you. John has this absolutely amazing talent to produce these really well done and highly entertaining. Actually, so I was going to say, these are actually quite fun little side games to make, but I also think he's a very good presenter. So in addition to the fact that he seems pretty much every meetup of a local sort of game dev collective called Dirty Rectangles, he always seems to have something to show. In addition to the fact that these things are delightful little artifacts on their own, and I strongly recommend that you guys check out this page. He's a very gifted presenter. So there's this great anticipation. If you've been to more than one of them, it's like, as soon as he comes up, it's like, what is he going to do, this time? At least this is the experience for me. This is actually going to be very embarrassing if I, see him in person next time, but whatever. I really want you guys to check this stuff out. So it's not just that these things are really fun on their own, but he's got a degree of showmanship, which really, I don't know, like really sells it. So these are always a delight, and I hope you guys enjoy them as much as I do. One of my personal favorites is, I believe it's called Definitely an MMO. I know the subtitle is It's Fun, quote unquote. I strongly encourage all of you to check it out, although it's a bit of an older one. There are newer and probably more probably titles that he would prefer you to check out on your own. But anyways, I've been meaning to do this for a while, and I know for like little side, either like a blog or something like that, I will occasionally push that stuff out, but I also get to see how often people click the links on the blog and things like that. So usually whenever I get to do the full-throated endorsement, that gets a little bit more traffic going. So please click that link, check it out. You won't regret it, or if you play the MMO, you will definitely regret it. But one way or the other, your life will be different having played this. So anyways, Sean will now never speak up in chat again, but I hope that was worth it. And yes, Captain Shield, I am streaming. I didn't have a great evening, but I am determined to at least do a small story mission here. So
I'm on a mission. Can you help me find someone?
yeah,
I
no
can
worries.
help you find major entertainment centers or stores, but I'm afraid I can't point you to individual people.
Oh, that's right.
Liara is excellent at that type of work, however. I imagine she can help you.
Thank you.
We exhausted
pleasant visit,
we
no
exhausted the
Commander.
dialogue. So yeah, I mean, back when I first played this. So for those of you who don't recall,
Intaris Systems has been deeply embarrassed by the recent theft of a new Omni-Gel synthesis prototype. Intaris was planning
But yeah, I think one of the things that really got my attention on this one, if you haven't seen some of the earlier
these human colony attacks, they're going to see a ton of business.
A ton of immediate charity business, followed by a freeze as new colony plans dry up. Just watch. Sell! Sell!
Yeah, this was one of the first games that I played after like not playing games for a really long time. So first of all, this thing was mind-blowing. Like, if the last thing I played was something like Counter-Strike 1.6 or something along those lines. And then, you know, the next thing that you play is Mass Effect 2. It's like, oh god, like, what happened to games? How long have I been missing out on this? But because I was just slowly transitioning into this, you know, my academic studies, which of course means economics.
Listen, I know the data is vital to the Kurosa family. Asana Dantius didn't give us time to pack. What is it? I'm in the middle of an important call.
I overheard you talking. Is this the data you're looking for?
The Kurosa Generational Archive. You found it. Thank you. My whole family has been worried. That data is irreplaceable. I didn't think I'd get it back from Nasana's corporate building.
Why is this data so important anyway?
It's a genetic history for the entire Kurosa family. It's used for high-level reproductive negotiations. It would be like a human pedigree, I suppose. Without it, you're bargaining from a greatly weakened position. Losing this would have hurt my family for generations, maybe even destroyed it.
If this data is so important, why didn't you have backups?
We did. A rival family introduced a computer virus and our techs were sloppy. The virus destroyed all our data. I just spent a fortune getting the data recovered and reconstructed when Nasana went crazy. We live in a world of infinite data redundancy. To lose something so important because of one crazy Asari?
There's your data. I hope it helps your family.
You have no idea, human. I don't know who you are or how you got it, but thank you. Here, for your trouble. Blessings be upon you. You've certainly blessed us.
Captain Shield, thank you very much for the host. But yeah, so being able to walk into this, so like obviously some of the stuff that I worked on before was science fiction, you know, like Stargate and Battlestar Galactica. So obviously the fact that there are former cast members made me feel a little bit at home, but I think the fact that I was starting to study econ and then I land on this planet and there's things like indentured servitude and a stock market, and I'm starting to sort of get the things that I like about science fiction when
The Terminus systems are great for business.
I don't know. Some of them seem dangerous.
That's the whole point. Danger means more contract work for us.
But yeah, like little throwaway dialogue like this, especially because I'd never really played a game like this before. I think Ilium was really this first chance for me to, you know, to kind of really drink in the world and start seeing some things that I like in science fiction as sort of a consumer of these stories. And again, if, you know, my previous experience had maybe been StarCraft, which obviously put some effort into its story, but it's largely confined to sort of these cutscenes, and then maybe is a little bit of a motivation in terms of individual missions. Ilium was really finally a chance where I sort of realized that something else was going on. And then I loved the fact at the end of this one where you get to like do the big speech before you're about to go to the final battle. I just loved that bit. So I love the fact that it felt like I was playing a science fiction television show. And so I think because I was moving, you know, I was moving from an old career into sort of a new area of study, and Ilium mapped well onto that. But also because I got to live some of the stuff that I worked on in the previous career. This is probably exactly the right game for me to play, you know, at that time of my life. So, anyways, God. Where are we? Also, too, use it. God.
No,
I don't think I've done this mission.
She insists it was legal. I don't know. I'm going to call in a favor and have a friend examine the contract.
I'll buy it all because I'm rich, and I don't think this is where I'm supposed to be going, though. I'm not very good at paying attention to what I'm supposed to be doing here. But I do get to meet up with Liara again. So yeah, the other thing that's really caught my attention about this one is because now I've played the first Mass Effect. Coming back to this game, I don't remember it that well anyway, but just some of the encounters are completely different from what I remember them because I've got that background from the first game. So even though I sort of struggled to get through some of the things that didn't really work for me, it's been an absolute blast to come back to this.
Baria Frontiers. Our sales kiosk is over there.
All right.
Shepard. I don't suppose you'd remember me. I'm Shiala. We met on Pharos during the Geth attack. Saren had given me to the Thorian creature as a slave, and you killed it. And saved me. I promised to help Zoo's Hope recover. I'm actually here on Ilium for just that purpose.
Lore Master Noah. I don't know if you prefer Noah or Noja. I'm really bad at pronouncing names. I hope you are well. Thank you very much for that, host.
How's Zoo's Hope doing?
We've done a lot of rebuilding. We even salvaged some useful material from the Geth ship you destroyed. The Exogeny researchers got called back to their headquarters, however, along with what was left of the Thorian.
Is it Exogeny pushing colonists around again, or did the Thorians somehow survive our fight?
No. Exogeny has been very supportive of Zoo's Hope. They actually seem to want to help us survive, and the Thorian is dead. Though, after all you went through to kill it, I understand your concern. I fear that after our adventure on Pharos, my purpose on Ilium will seem mundane by comparison.
Is there something I can do to help?
I'd appreciate it. I've reached the limits of my diplomatic abilities, and I prefer not to start trouble. Some of the colonists had health problems as a result of the Thorian control. We hired a colonial survey group to do some medical scans. But the medical contract apparently allows the company to perform invasive procedures without our consent. That's why I'm here.
Tell me more about the contract you signed for these scans.
Baria Frontiers was interested in our problem. They offered to perform medical scans and deliver treatment for next to nothing. I should have known it was too good to be true, but we were desperate. In the fine print, we apparently agreed to let them perform invasive follow-up procedures if they deem it valuable. Which they have.
Can they actually force these procedures on you?
No. But they can declare us in breach of contract, which means we're responsible for the full price we would have paid normally. Zoo's Hope just got back on its feet. There's no way we can afford that, Shepard.
What kind of health problems did the colonists have?
Headaches or muscle spasms, similar to what they experienced while under Thorian control. Sometimes, the colonists near another former Thorian victim shared sensations like heat or pain. It has to be a result of trace amounts of the Thorian's parasitic spores. You can see why we'd want it studied and cured.
Wait a minute, Shiala. You were only green when the Thorian made you a clone. The real you was blue like normal Asari.
Those health problems I said were related to the Thorian control. This is mine. A few months after the Thorian died, my skin pigment changed. My biotic abilities are unstable as well. I'm also having vivid dreams about my time with the Thorian. It is disconcerting.
I'll talk to the survey group.
I appreciate it, Shepard. The Baria Frontiers representative knows about the issue.
So this is a really good example of like one of these ideas. So again, I don't remember this this encounter at all. from the original game, and I suspect I probably didn't have it because I didn't have this encounter. But this is a thing that does kind of happen in the real world. So I know there's DNA testing, and there's a number of concerns in terms of exactly what a company can do with those tests. How much information can they, are they allowed to keep on you? And in particular, can they sell it to another group without you knowing? Maybe a less invasive example of this would be, at least in the States, I don't know if this is in Canada, but if you want to buy and sell stocks, you have to go to a brokerage or stockbroker. And nowadays, it's a fairly straightforward thing. So like in Canada, there's like RBC Direct Investing, there's like Scotia E-Trade, there's things like that. And usually what happens is you pay a fee for each trade, and if you do a lot of trading, you get sort of a volume discount. And one of the things that these organizations trade on is, or compete on, is price. So can I offer a lower price to get the order fulfilled? Now, because I'm a big nerd, this sort of stuff I find absolutely fascinating in terms of how you actually do this whole matching thing of, what price do I want to buy at, or do I want to sell at, or buy at, or what have you. Obviously nowadays, it's not just a lot of this is computerized, but there's a whole series of techniques that actually rely on sort of the plumbing, specifically how these orders are fulfilled, in order to make decisions in a fraction of a second and just make incredible profits. And then, of course, you've got the flip side, which is you've got a bunch of people trying to exploit those algorithmic decisions in order to sort of siphon off their little bit of the profits. So one of the things that happened was there was a company that was offering free trading. If you wanted to buy shares of Intel, you could buy shares of Intel, and you would put the money in, and you would buy, you would have that claim on Intel's profits. But what they didn't tell their customers, and this is apparently a pretty common practice among brokers, but nobody really asked, why can you give this away for free? And they certainly weren't forthright about this. But essentially, what they were doing was they were taking the trading information of the people, and they were selling it to sort of these larger funds, and then they were using it to make their own trading decisions. Now, chances are, in practice, if you're an individual investor, like your individual moves are probably not going to be the sort of thing that like a large bank is going to want to, front run or something like that. Well, I guess you couldn't front run it because the information actually needs to be delivered. But it's difficult to see how an individual investor would necessarily be harmed by it. Although the fact of the matter is that the bank is given a bunch of information specifically about the orders that people are making, essentially in real time. But the big thing is that nobody was told about this. Obviously, there's sometimes this caveat emptor. We're sort of at a point now, unfortunately, where you need to say, like, okay, obviously they can't operate for free forever, so how do they make their money? But, I'm not entirely sure the consumer really needs to be doing that much homework to figure that out. I think if you go to that broker, you should probably know this is the actual cost, that your trading information is being sold to another group who is going to be trading on the basis of that information. So I don't know, like, this is the big thing, is that I think the thing that really attracted me to Ilium is the number of sort of stories like these, and how they sort of reflect to real world concerns. Now, obviously, I don't think anybody at BioWare was sitting down saying, what we really need to be thinking about is the cost of free free stock trading. Chances are, if you're trading stocks, you're probably reasonably well off. But again, science fiction's a nice little platform in which we can explore ideas like this. And then obviously in the case of Ilium, where there is indentured servitude and there is, it takes place in space, so you can really do whatever you want, it gives us a nice little space to really push those ideas and see where they're going. And then we can kind of take it back to a conversation. So, obviously you guys are probably more interested in Mass Effect than you are in the plumbing of the stock market, but whether we want to talk about like what 23andMe does with your DNA test once you submit it, or what happens when you go at a discount broker and trade stocks at a lower price than what you think you should get, a planet like Ilium basically says, well, what if, the libertarians really got what they wanted and everything was, all of the regulations were gone? Is this, are the gains really worth it? It's obviously a very prosperous planet, but you wouldn't want to be that Quarian that we ran into. And again, all of these wonderful things. The thing that I love the most about Mass Effect 2, and I know I'm really just monologuing here, but the fact that the Quarian slavery thing, you do the obvious option, which is, well, can't I just buy you back? And basically the answer is no, because we're not idiots and we built the contract specifically to make sure that you can't do it that way. And by the way, it wasn't all entirely to screw the Quarian. It was also to make sure that they didn't wind up working in some mine somewhere where they didn't want to go. And this is actually, so a lot of the things that you look at when you sort of say, society's broken and they're all a bunch of crooks who are running everything, sometimes there are actually sort of measures that are intended to protect people that actually wind up being the sort of thing that wind up individually harming you, but are actually better for people overall. And so I like the fact that some of this nuance is put inside of Mass Effect. It's what makes it sort of seem like a world that's like lived in and thought through. But again, more importantly too, is that you get a chance to have a conversation about things that are happening in the real world. And I don't necessarily think anybody's going to say it's like, yes, if we just got rid of if we got rid of the safety labels, everything would be great in the world. But because I have a feeling that everybody would get mad at each other if we were to talk about real world examples out of the gate, we get this nice little abstraction of Mass Effect. And then, if you guys were never interested in the stock market, well, now we've got something that we can sort of relate to, to a video game that we all enjoy, and we learn a little bit more about the world. So, anyways, the Assassin says there are clinics and hospitals that offer really cheap scans and services if you allow them to use you as a teaching guinea pig, and in some cases allowing you to use your data for surveys, testing, etc. Yeah, actually, there's another thing specifically that's happening in Canada that I'll talk about, but I do want to get a little bit of progress in the game. It said, you let a bunch of nursing students practice drawing blood on you, taking vitals, and testing new equipment on you, but they were very clear about what was going to be done. You like the one little scene where the aliens short-selling colony stocks. Yeah, well, that's one that I like, too, because it actually reminds me a little bit of Watchmen 2, where Ozymandias is talking about, he's looking at the commercials and positioning his portfolio in accordance with the disaster that's about to come. Well, I mean, this is the funny thing too, Lore Master. Like, you can say that on one sense, if you are an individual with some financial capital and you don't have anything productive to do with it, then really what you wind up doing if you buy stocks is you give those resources to somebody who, in theory, has a good idea with how to spend that money. But you as a developer obviously have an idea that you feel is worthwhile. And so in that sense, I mean, obviously it's hey, in the spaghetti, thank you very much for the host. In this sense here, investing in your own product, I mean, it's just like any other kind of business. Now, again, I know you're talking about wanting to see a return on that. But I guess the biggest thing is that without any prior knowledge, I wouldn't necessarily say it's bad that somebody's investing in developing a game than buying a stock, because if the person knows what they're doing with the game and they have a realistic plan in which the revenues will be higher than the costs, and that return is higher than what they would have gotten inside of a stock, which is obviously a very volatile investment. I mean, depending on what stock you're buying, it's really no better than game development. And I know nobody really goes into game development to get rich. It's not necessarily the case that that's a bad decision. It depends entirely on sort of your ability to realize your game and sell it. As much as it is sort of your ability to analyze somebody else's business plan and see how well they're doing. So, in one sense, if you didn't feel you'd get a return, and the goal is to get a return, maybe you just buy EA or Ubisoft or something like that. Anyways.
I saw your conversation, human. You're here to complain about the medical contracts those colonists from Theros signed. I suggest you leave. Your life is short enough. Do not waste what time you have bothering me.
Why are you insisting on these tests? What use could they possibly be?
Their use is not your concern. A legal binding contract was signed. Nothing else matters. All of you. Humans, Solarians, Turians. You come to our planet, then complain that our laws don't suit you. The galaxy would be a better place if nobody but the Asari had ever dragged themselves out of the primordial muck.
Perhaps we could work out different tests. Something that will work for both sides.
If the colonists were not willing to abide by the terms of the contract, they should not have signed it. The onus is not upon me to accommodate them.
So you'd be this harsh in your contract terms if these were Asari colonists?
If they were Asari, they'd be dealing with problems unleashed by another race. Asari like my bondmate, who died when the Geth rebelled against the Quarians. Or my daughters, who died during the Geth attack on the Citadel. One worked in the embassy. The other was a greeter for the consort. I'm not speaking in hypotheticals, human. The aliens will never be my allies. The best they can do is give me useful medical data.
Why was your bondmate on the Quarian homeworld?
Studying the Quarians. Not their technology, but their music. She loved all their art. Said they had old souls. I think that's where my daughters got it from. Both of them loved talking with people, exploring new cultures.
They sound like wonderful people. The galaxy is lesser for their loss.
Yes, it is.
Do you think they'd want you to do this?
I'm not. I didn't... Sending an amended contract. No more tests, no fees. There's enough grief in this galaxy. I don't need to add to it.
Did you get the star charts?
Yeah, I had... You did it. I just got the revised contracts. Thank you, Shepard. You've saved Zoo's hope again. I don't think I could have... Is it always like this? Yesterday's problems lingering in some new form. Isn't anything ever just fixed?
You've got the power to make a difference, Shiala. Not everyone does.
You're right. You gave us a chance by saving the colony. I can't let them down. I won't. Thank you for what you've done here, Shepard. I'll keep doing what I can. Maybe sometime when I'm not organizing the colony and you're not doing whatever you do.
Listen, I actually really like that little bit of dialogue, because you sometimes get this impression, especially in the first game, where you're sort of running around. Oh yeah, don't worry, guys. Shepard will come in and fix everything. Or if you really want to talk, the fascist underpinnings of Mass Effect, one man who can save you from the horrors that are waiting outside. And it probably doesn't hurt that there's a big propaganda poster at the end of the first game. But I really like the fact that, once you leave this planet, there's actually a whole rebuilding process done. And I mean, obviously we just helped them out again, but it's kind of neat, this admission that, it isn't just, wait for the army to show up, impose martial law, fix everything, and then everybody can move on, that there's a longer procedure. I don't see many games confronting that.
Can I help you with something?
I'm looking for an Asari warrior named Samara.
Wait, why? Do you have a problem, or did she kill somebody already?
Relax. I just need to speak with her.
Good. Samara's the first Justicar I've seen on Ilium. If I'm lucky, things will stay peaceful. She went to the commercial spaceport a few hours ago. If you want to get there, the pedestal on that balcony will summon a cab. Just be polite when you meet her. Justicars embody our highest laws, and they usually stay in Asari space. She's not used to dealing with aliens.
Is Samara really that dangerous?
If you follow the laws, you've got nothing to fear, and a Justicar would die without hesitation to protect the innocent. But their code orders them to stop lawbreakers, with lethal force in most cases, and everyone skirts the law somehow on Ilium. If someone tried to bribe her, she'd be obliged to gun them down as a matter of honor. I'm hoping to avoid that.
Why are you worried about other species coming into contact with her?
If a Justicar kills an Asari, none of us questions it. But if she killed a human... Do you think the Alliance would understand her actions and respect her authority? You can't even figure out your own religions. It's a big diplomatic incident just waiting to happen.
Tell me about the Justicars.
They're a monastic order. They've given up their families and possessions to follow their code. Most of them are on some lifelong mission, but they'll always stop to deal with any injustice they encounter, which can be a problem. In some ways, they're a lot like the Spectres, undertaking personal missions.
Spectres are authorized by the Council. Who do Justicars represent?
What? That's like, I don't know, a good human metaphor. They represent their code, our code. It's closer to a religious group than a legal branch. No law-abiding Asari would question a Justicar's orders. Nobody becomes a Justicar for personal gain. And they die before breaking their oaths.
I'm looking for Samara.
Oh.
Like I said, she's at the commercial spaceport. You can hail a cab at the pedestal on that balcony over there.
All right. As always, we're bringing the A-team. As much as I like Thane's posture. Oh, that's right. I should have actually done some dialogue with him.
Where do you think you're going?
I'm taking my goods to Omega, Detective.
You're not going anywhere, Merchant. Not until I solve this murder.
I had nothing to do with that. It was those mercenary thugs you can't seem to get rid of.
The victim was your business partner, and I'm not ruling you out. I'll let you know when you can leave.
What about that Justicar that just showed up? Everyone says she might go crazy and start killing. I need to leave.
She'll only kill the unjust, so I'm sure you have nothing to worry about, Pitney 4. Find me in the station if you need me.
I think that's another thing I like. So even though the Asari are space elves, you still get to see one being a tough cop.
What do you want? I've already got mercs wanting to kill me like they did my partner. I don't need any more trouble. As if that weren't enough, some Asari Justicar showed up this morning. All the natives are scared of her. I've got to get off of this world.
Has Samara actually done anything yet?
The Asari say that Justicars are lethal in a fight. And if they so much as smell corruption, they start shooting. The thing is, corruption isn't that hard to find around here.
Tell me how to find the Justicar.
She's in the alley where my business partner was murdered. A detective sealed the area, so you'll have to talk with her if you want to go there.
Why do you think it was mercenaries?
Dagny Kerr was cutting through a back alley last night when someone killed him with a shotgun. I saw his body this morning. They'd used modded rounds. That means Eclipse mercs.
You must know something about these Eclipse.
I occasionally do business with them, but only in well-lit places, with my guards, and only after the cred's clear. This is a scummy bunch, even by merc standards. They sell red sand, all kinds of illegal items, and they are all cold-blooded killers.
Why would these mercs kill him? And why do you think they're coming after you too?
I have no idea. We're innocent merchants. But they killed him, so they must be after me too. I have to work the angles and get out of here.
You don't seem too broken up about your partner's death.
Dagny Kerr knew the risks when he took to spacing. Right now, my worry is me. It's unhealthy to be a Volus in the Nosastra spaceport right now. Especially a Volus named Pitney 4.
I should go.
Cops don't admit it, but the Eclipse sisters run this area.
Hello, Ego. How you doing?
I wanted to be a Justicar when I was young. Every Asari does, I guess.
Nice guns. Try not to use them in my district. What can I do for you?
I'm looking for an Asari warrior named Samara.
If you've got a score to settle with Samara, take it somewhere else. I've got more than enough trouble here already.
I need to recruit Samara for my mission. Then we'll be on our way.
Justicars usually work alone, but they are drawn to impossible causes.
What are you trying to
our
suggest?
mission then. If you're getting her out of my district, I'll get you to her ASAP. She's at the crime scene.
You're letting her into a sealed crime scene?
I'm a cop. I'll work with the Justicar all I can. Besides, she's been looking at crime scenes longer than our two lifespans combined. She knows how to handle herself.
You're awfully anxious to get Samara out of your district.
My bosses want me to detain her. They're worried she'll cause some kind of cross-species incident. But her Justicar code won't let her be taken into custody. If I try it, she'll have to kill me. I have no interest in dying, so if you lure her away with some big noble cause before I have to carry out my orders, I'm thrilled to help you.
Your superiors are sending you to certain death for no good reason. You have a right to disobey.
Let's remember that next time Shepard sets us up against impossible odds.
That's about twice a day.
Most of the time, I'm not being stupid about it. I can't say the same for Anaya's superiors.
I'm a cop and I know my duty. I've been ordered to detain her and I will. Unless I can get her to leave my district first.
Samara would kill a cop? That doesn't sound very just.
She would die defending an honest cop, but she'd fight an army of dirty cops to the death. I admire her dedication, but her presence is still a big problem. I need her gone before I have to carry out my orders.
How do I get to the crime scene?
It's around the corner. Go outside, take a left. Look for the police line. I'll send word to let you in. Be careful. The local Eclipse mercs have been all over those back alleys lately.
You mentioned a crime scene?
A Volus merchant was murdered. It was a professional hit, so we're not dealing with junkies looking for a score. I'm thinking the local Eclipse mercenary band. Can't prove it, but if the Volus was dirty too, maybe it's just a deal gone bad.
What do I need to know about these mercenaries?
Eclipse mercs are professional killers. They sell red sand, trade illegal weapons tech, and smuggle criminals off-world. They control some back alleys around here. I haven't been able to find their nest yet, though.
What can you tell me about Justicars?
They're a kind of... humans might call them warrior monks. They live by a complex code that compels them to punish the wicked and protect the pure. They've been a part of Asari culture for millennia. I read adventure stories about Justicars when I was a child.
What do you think of Samara herself?
She's been a Justicar longer than 3 of your lifespans. Whoever she was before she swore that oath, that person is dead.
People seem nervous about Samara's presence.
Asari admire Justicars, but we also know that they kill without mercy when they find corruption. And Justicars never leave Asari space. Why is she here? I doubt it's to investigate the murder of some corrupt Volas.
I have to go.
Good luck.
We'd better find Samara before the detective goes after her.
Anaya told us to let you through. Watch yourself. There's Merc activity back here. We're waiting on backup.
Ira, let's consider this extra stock surplus. Ship the rest to Thax at his normal destination. He'll never miss a few lost pieces. I remember this has like a really big ending, but I don't remember that much about the...
Alpha Squad went after that Justicar 20 minutes ago, and they've gone dark.
I don't remember that much about how this sets up though, so...
We've been...
Stop, it hurts! Alright, I need to pay a little bit better attention. And thank you for stopping by, Ego. I'm, hopefully it's worthwhile, but I don't know, it wasn't a great, evening, so I'm partially just decompressing after that. And I'm obviously starting the stream really late, so hopefully I'm not too disappointing. I will admit, I do miss being able to use a sniper rifle as much as in the first Mass Effect, but I think the fact that it has less ammo is the better call overall.
Those were my best troops.
Tell me what I need to know, and I will be gone from here. Where did you send her?
You think I'd betray her? She would hurt me in ways you can't imagine.
The name of the ship. Your life hangs on the answer, Lieutenant.
You can kill me, but one of us will take you down, Justicar.
What was the name of the ship she left on?
Go to hell.
Find peace in the embrace of the goddess. My name is Samara, a servant of the Justicar Code. My quarrel is with these Eclipse Sisters, but I see 3 well-armed people before me. Are we friend or foe?
That's actually a really good point, Sean. I always keep getting frustrated with the slowdown, because it always screws up my aiming. But I buried the lead on that. The point is not the shooting mechanic; it's what you can do with the I don't know, the environment, or well, it's with what you're hearing.
I'm Commander Shepard, and I need your help with a critical mission, Samara.
You honor me, but I am in the middle of an investigation.
I'm going up against suicidal odds, and I need the best. That's you.
I sense the truth in what you say, and it humbles me. But I seek an incredibly dangerous fugitive. I cornered her here, but the Eclipse Sisters smuggled her off-world. I must find the name of the ship she left on before the trail goes cold.
I wish you were willing to go with the human, Justicar. I've been ordered to take you into custody if you won't leave.
You risk a great deal by following your orders, Detective. Fortunately, I will not have to resist. My code obligates me to cooperate with you for 1 day. After that, I must return to my investigation.
I won't be able to release you that soon.
You won't be able to stop me.
The human is lost here. Can one of you clarify?
I was trying to convince her to leave with you, but Justicar's in their code.
The detective has been ordered to detain me. I can't force her to disobey an order.
And after 1 day, Samara fights her way out of custody, killing anyone in her way.
I am afraid so.
There must be some way we can all get what we need.
I see a way. While I am in custody, you find the name of that ship. Do that and I will join you. Then the code will be satisfied.
Can you tell me more about Justicars?
We are individuals who have forsworn family, children, and worldly possessions aside from some weapons and armor. We travel Asari space righting wrongs as defined by the ancient code we have each memorized.
Could you please read the code in detail right now? I'll go get a coffee.
Ilium may be dominated by Asari, but it isn't in Asari space.
My quarry fled to this place. I am sworn to hunt her down, and I will follow anywhere she goes. It is rare for a Justicar to leave Asari space, but I must follow my oath. If I suffer for it, I will accept that.
Can you tell me more about Justicars?
We are
Oh, damn it. Sorry,
we
I already
travel
did that one.
Asari space righting wrongs as defined by the ancient code we have each memorized.
A moment ago, you refused to give up your investigation, but now you'll swear to follow me?
If I stay, I will be compelled to kill many innocents to escape incarceration.
Like me.
I may be killed, and my quarry would be free to continue murdering. If I come with you and survive your mission, I can resume my investigation. To do that, I need the ship's name to track her to her next hiding place. It is a simple choice.
A small chance is better than none.
This Justicar code seems quite strict.
It may seem so to you, but this is my oath. The expedient path may be fast and simple. That does not make it the right path.
Do you have any leads?
The Volus merchant Pitney IV is tied to this. Eclipse mercs are preparing to kill him. Get the truth out of him. He may know a way into the Eclipse base.
Well, I've got to get back to my station. And I guess I've got to take you with me.
Thank you, Shepard.
So obviously I've gone pretty hard on the Paragon, but if I'm a renegade, do I just get to like lift him up with one hand and just beat the crap out of him? Because I'd play renegade if I could do
Hello
that.
again, Earth Clan. Did you speak to the detective?
Why are the mercs after you?
I know nothing about any mercenaries, Earth Clan. I'm merely an innocent merchant trying
Apparently
to make
you
his way in life.
can.
The Eclipse are out for your blood. I need your help to break into their base. Shouldn't we work together?
Yes, you're right, Earth Clan. I'm desperate. I've got angry mercs after me, and now this Asari Justicar. Let's talk. I smuggled a chemical onto Ilium that boosts biotic powers in combat. It also is toxic. I may have, forgotten to mention that to the Eclipse. So they are perturbed and want to kill me.
It sounds like you're a swindler and your actions finally caught up with you.
True and true. But I haven't survived as a merchant this long without being able to tell when there's a deal in the making. You want something.
The Eclipse recently smuggled someone off-world. I need the name of the ship she left on.
I don't know about their people smuggling operations. They must keep records in their base. I do have a pass card they issued me to bring my goods in. Well, I had to return that one, but I happened to make a copy. Take it, but be careful. Each Eclipse sister commits a murder to earn her uniform. They are all dangerous.
Get ready to fight.
I almost shot Tali.
I'll tear you apart!
Shepard, my scans confirm that the chemical compound will boost biotic.
Alright, I'm screwed.
You're dead. I'll tear you apart.
God damn it.
I'll kill you all!
Alright, well, I think my favorite Jack line is still the one where she screams, I'll throw you like a toy, but I haven't heard her say it in a little while. The M27A Scimitar shotgun acquired. The following squad members are able to use this weapon: Grunt, Jack, Jacob, and Tali. As always, I'll leave it to the AI to decide what the best weapon is, because I'm lazy.
Wait, stop! I didn't fire my weapon once. I pretended to because the other Eclipse sisters were watching, but I didn't really shoot.
You're in an enemy uniform and I'm gonna kill you.
I'm not one of them. I'm new. I thought being Elnora the mercenary would be cool, but I didn't know what they were really like.
What do they do here that you don't like, Elnora?
I thought we'd be flying around the galaxy shooting up bad guys and stuff, right? But no. They just sell red sand and illegal weapons tech. They even smuggled an Ardat Yakshi off-world.
What does Ardat Yakshi mean?
It's an ancient Asari word for something that I thought was just a superstition until now. It means demon of the night winds. I didn't think they were real, but the boss said this scary lady was one.
What do they do here that you don't like, Elnora?
I thought we'd be flying around but no.
Sorry, I'm
they
totally
just sell
not
red
paying
sand
attention.
And illegal weapons tech. They even smuggled an Ardat Yakshi off-world.
What ship did they use for the smuggling?
Wow, I have no idea. It was a few days ago, and like I said, I'm new. They didn't tell me anything.
Get out of here, Elnora. If you so much as jaywalk, I will find you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, I'm going. Thank you.
That's a DLC I would pay for. Traffic cop Shepard. The Reapers, you know what? The Alliance has a whole military at its disposal. I'm one woman. You cannot put the troubles of the galaxy on one person's shoulders. It's my job to deal with minor traffic violations.
This is interesting.
Ready to engage. Excuse me.
Time to die!
Oops.
Yes! Inhibiting their integrity!
Backup systems engaged.
I'm glad my teammates are a lot more competent than I am at actually finding enemies. Nothing more heroic than shooting somebody while they're down.
I'll tear you apart!
Requesting assistance.
Oops.
Kick their
Okay, so the game might have been right in saying that this is better than the Mantis that I had.
kill you all!
They've seen us.
Deploying warfare!
Ah, get out of it!
Eat this!
Sorry, I realize I don't have a lot that's very compelling to say about the gunfire, but... other than maybe the occasional curse as I completely blow an otherwise obvious or easy shot. God damn it, just like that. Sniper rifles are melee weapons, right?
It's official. Little baby Elnora is finally a full-fledged Eclipse merc. I earned my uniform last night when I killed that ridiculous Volus. Up close, exploding rounds. Blew the little bastard's suit wide open. I can't wait to see some real action. Next time I go home, my friends are gonna be so jealous.
Elnora was the killer. We should have killed that bitch. Detective Anaya would be interested in this.
I don't think there's anything back here, but I want to double check. Again, another great example of stuff that I completely forget from my first playthrough in terms of who the killer was. I actually sometimes wonder why, so in this case this is a murder mystery which you sort of find out through one line of recorded dialogue on a terminal. I've always sort of wondered, like I sort of like the Telltale-ish experience of having, you know, the dialogue bits and then there's never really like a fighting sequence. Well, not in this sense, in terms of like Walking Dead or something like that, but I am sort of interested in what it would be like if they actually did some kind of like a mystery, or basically there wasn't a basically you had something to do other than shoot a bunch of people to find out who the killer was. Although with that in mind, I suppose it's time to use a dubstep gun. Oof. Well, it's not exactly like it's dialogue for once. Like, you have this nice little balance between, you know, we're going to reveal more of this world and more of the character through these dialogue scenes. Like, especially, so if you think of it, like, I get to opt in whenever I do these combat sequences, and it's a nice little bit of, you know, you have a bit of mental rest. And then you move on. But I'm just sort of thinking, like, in one sense it makes total sense because, you know, I've signed up for sort of this cover shooter and whatnot. But in another sense, I sort of think that the Mass Effect world's interesting enough that maybe I can do things other than solve my problems through, you know, through shooting. But like on the other hand, I sort of already know what I've signed up for. It's not that I'm disappointed. It's just I'm kind of curious what it would be like to do, to have a little sequence like that. I would say definitely compared.
A shipping manifest. It shows that Pitney 4 sold 2,000 units of Minigen X3 to the Eclipse, along with 600 units of red sand.
This isn't the information Samara needs, but it does implicate the Volas. I imagine Detective Anaya would be interested in this.
We gotta keep moving.
The one thing I will say for this, like, I do like, compared to the first Mass Effect, that the missions are generally shorter, and when you do one of them, the stakes are a little bit more than just, here's a crazy AI, go shoot some things. Okay, now it's a crazy Thresher Maw, go shoot some things. Like, I think in these ones there's a little bit more that motivates what you're doing. So I think it's the reason why I like Mass Effect 2 a bit more. But I'm spoiled now, right? Like, I know that this is an interesting world, and I know there's lots of things to do in it, and there's a lot of, there's a lot of really cool ideas going on inside of it, and so inevitably I have to wonder, because we have things like contracts that essentially turn people into experiments because they couldn't have known any better or didn't read the fine print, or we've got, somebody who bets it all on the market and then winds up as essentially a slave. It feels like there's sort of all these interesting threads which you could potentially pick up on, and maybe this isn't necessarily the game where those need to be done, but I don't know. I'm sort of interested in knowing what a Mass Effect mystery would look like, and I suppose if you're supposed to be the Special Forces operative, presumably your capabilities are not just, especially as an infiltrator, right? Your capabilities aren't just the ability to put bullets through the air. Especially if this is somebody who's supposed to be working, behind enemy lines or something like that. The ability to sort of get people to do what you want is kind of important to that line of work. But again, like, I don't think, if you ask anybody who's playing a game, like, what do you want? I want even more. Like, that's not really meaningful. Sometimes it's better just to talk about, what do I like about this and why am I playing it a second time?
I am a biotic god. I think things, and they happen. Fear me, lesser creatures, for I am biotics made flesh.
You need help.
You need help. For you stand before the mightiest biotic ever. Yes, the Asari injecting so many drugs into me was terrifying. But then I began to smell my greatness. They may laugh when I fall over, but they don't know what I know in my head. That I know that I am amazingly powerful. Fear me?
Are you part of Pitney 4's trade group?
When I was mortal, I worked for Pitney. Poor soul is probably terrified that I have not returned.
He hasn't reported your disappearance. Probably so his departure won't get delayed.
When the chips are down, even your friends will screw you for an extra cred.
Bah! I will wreak a just revenge upon his people. But first, the leader of these mercenaries is in the next room. I shall toss Wasea about like a rag doll.
Shepard, he can barely talk, much less fight.
I will tear her apart. My biotics are unstoppable.
Wasea will tear you apart. Take a nap. You'll feel better.
Are you mad? I'm unstoppable. Feasting on her biotic-rich blood will be the last step. But Great Wind, Biotic God, what was I saying? I'm tired. You may be right. Yes, I'm tired. I'll nap. Destroy the universe later.
Nicely done, Shepard.
That's really interesting. I've never heard that before, Sean, but that's that actually makes a lot of sense. I guess it also makes sense as traffic cop enforcing or traffic violation enforcing Shepard as well. But the other thing that's neat too, I mean, obviously Mass Effect's rich enough that, like, I have to assume that there would probably be a couple of good, like, strategy games out of it, almost in the line of Halo Wars. The only thing is that I don't really think the world needs another real-time strategy game. But that is a neat one. And I think the other... Sorry, I was not paying attention to the thing. I think one of the other sort of dilemmas that I run into is, like, I always sort of talk about, hey, what if they did this, what if they did that, but, like, I'm not entirely sure I'd change this formula. Like, so one thing that I kind of like about the way that this works, I'm assuming, like, you know, I've got a weapons loadout, they're giving me another health kit. Like, I'm assuming I'm about to have a big, you know, big boss fight. So in this case, I get a nice little moment of, you know, I get a little moment of comic relief where I run into the, you know, the Volus with delusions of grandeur, and I push him over. Like, I'm not entirely sure how I improve on that. So in some cases, you know, it's all nice to wonder what a Mass Effect mystery would be like, but maybe even just something for a different game. I mean, again, it would be neat to see the rest of the world. One thing I will say, though, which I've mentioned in a couple of private chats, totally unrelated to what I'm going to do now, but we'll just build anticipation or whatever for this mission here. The one thing that I know would piss everyone off, which is why I like this idea so much. So I think it was Kotaku that had this whole post-mortem on Mass Effect Andromeda, and how I think the game as we know it was made in like a year and a half, and one of the reasons for that was I think the original plan. So Starflight is a big inspiration for this game, and you can really see that in the first one. And I think the thing that they never quite got and wanted to do with Andromeda was this idea of lots of sort of diverse planets and exploring them and trying to find a new home and such. And I think the original plan was to sort of, you know, create this thing that would procedurally generate a whole bunch of planets which you'd sort of meaningfully explore. And, you know, the technology never gets realized, so it goes, you know, they reduce the number of planets and that gets further reduced and so on and so forth. So if this sort of attempt to generate some technology that never really gets off the ground is one of the reasons why it was never realized. And then, I mean, they also mentioned difficulty with working with Frostbite, which would not be the first time that story has been told. But if they're sort of trying to get this technology that didn't work and they wound up spending a lot of time on it, then presumably either knowing not to go down that path or having a way of generating that technology would be, presumably that's something that would give us a better Andromeda. And by the way, I'm assuming that Andromeda wasn't good. I've not played it, but I'm kind of relying on, I don't think anybody says it's their favorite Mass Effect game. So clearly, you know, gamers on the internet, being what they are extremely unkind to the product and usually really nasty to the people who worked on it. But I'm just thinking to myself, the one thing that I'm sure the gamers TM would hate and would actually be a perfect solution to at least the problems identified in that article would be if the No Man's Sky team and the Mass Effect Andromeda team got together and resolved those issues. And I'm still, I mean, again, as somebody who's completely outside of this and is more so interested just in terms of the dynamics of how these things get made rather than being a practitioner myself, I still find it really hard to shake that that is not simultaneously extremely amusing to me, because of course these are two tremendously hated products. Hey, Massimo Goma. But number two, it actually really seems to be, at least if I take the Kotaku article at its word, it actually seems to be the sort of thing that legitimately would have resolved the issues that caused that caused everything else to be rushed. So there you go. You take two famously hated properties by people on the internet, and you potentially get something very satisfying. And then, of course, I'm sure Hello Games, is not doing what they want to do, which is to make their own games. So that probably is not a workable solution. But I leave it to your discussion while I fail to take down the big bad guy.
Everything's gone to hell since we smuggled that filthy creature off-world. First a Justicar shows up. Now you. At least I can take pleasure in turning your head into a pulpy mass. Mark.
Covered? Thank you. Jesus. Okay, not a good idea. Whereas with tail end of public opinion on No Man's Sky came around for a lot of folks. They've continued to do fantastic work, and although there's a lot of discourse on the time, it's got a pretty good following of fans these days. I think even at the time of release, I seem to remember, I don't watch too many GDC talks, but I do remember, I'm pretty sure it was Sean Murray who was having a chat and actually gave some numbers in terms of like what the actual player numbers were. And this is of course before they had, I think like the big turnaround patch was they call it the Atlas patch or something like that. But like it was the one that seemed to implement a lot of features that people were under the impression would be in the game, and like basically it's obviously them following up on on the feedback of like what what people thought the game should have been. And it seemed to have always had really healthy numbers. But yeah, I agree completely, Sean. Like I think if the perception that somebody gets from like gaming on Twitter as opposed to people who are actually just playing stuff. We were talking about this yesterday. Like it's occurred to me that I've had this terrifying feeling this is what it's like to get old. I've only ever really played games on PC. And part of this is just because I really like strategy games. So strategy games don't really translate well on console. I'm not like unfamiliar with consoles. I have a Wii, but like that's it. And it's kind of occurred to me that like that is not the average experience of gaming. The average experience of gaming is probably not even on console, but on mobile. And like I think the mobile titles I played, XCOM, which doesn't really count because it's also on PC, Monument Valley, all 3 Infinity Blade games, and Actually, there's a rather good one called The Devil's Attorney, but it's not updated for iOS anymore. But yeah, like, this is the thing, is like, it's actually occurred to me that like my experience of gaming is in the minority, and that at some point, you know, what a gamer was shifted from the type of people who complain about like Sean Murray lied TM. I don't know when it happened, but it's kind of neat too. Although like, it's one of these points where I sort of like, I don't even, like, it's just occurred to me there's an entire world of games that I've never really experienced, although it's basically what people associate with gaming now. In modern terms, the average experience of gaming is pretty much like just Fortnite. Yeah, actually, I guess that's right. Wasn't that a, like, who announced it? Maybe it was Epic. Like, apparently Fortnite has more players than every game on Steam. Yeah, I mean, I have a little bit of sympathy. Like, so clearly, I think even I think even Hello Games would say that the expectations for No Man's Sky got out of hand. I don't know how much they've really talked about it, because I was never I was in grad school when No Man's Sky came out, so it's like I'm not gonna. I don't think I was like hotly anticipating any game around that time, but I don't know, like, it's just like the EA stuff. Like, that's one that I actually did the homework for. Like, I can't actually see any empirical reason why EA is a worse company than any other gaming company, but it's become a byword for everything that's bad in the games industry. And you can dislike EA. I'm just saying, is like, compared to, X, Y, Z. I think the mobile gaming thing was probably inspired by Diablo Immortal, and this idea where, like, apparently, moving Diablo to mobile is like something worthy of ridicule. And I'm kind of like, is it? Like, it seems like that's a very good idea, I'm sure if you're anticipating a PC game, it's disappointing, but I don't see why, like, a new game is a bad thing. But oh, no worries, Ego. I'm probably not here that much longer anyway, but yeah, I don't know. Like, it's almost to a point here. Like, I like talking about games. I sort of like swimming in, in the worlds that they make, or I like talking about, this thing wasn't really working for me. I wonder why. Or, hey, this is my favorite game ever. I'm why don't they make more of this? Like, that's usually a really positive thing. It's one of the reasons I really like being on Twitch, even when it's something like this, which is obviously a little bit more low key. And I don't want to think I'm just like ticking the box to do a broadcast at the end, but I kind of need, basically just to recharge. I guess I kind of wonder why everybody's so pissed off about games. Like, I've never really felt that the release of a new thing prevents you from enjoying that other thing that you do. So some new games are amazing. And people get really weirdly hipster about games, especially popular games. You love both indie titles and big titles. Oh yeah, actually, sorry, that's another mobile title. Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery. That's another good one. Which, by the way, The Eyes of Sin does occasionally broadcast, and that was one of the things I really enjoyed watching her play. So yeah, I've never played the Red Dead series. Obviously, I know about the overtime that people spent on it, but I've never played any of those. And you believe it was more the way that Diablo Immortal was announced? Well, like, it got a priority spot at BlizzCon. Like, I don't think it's bad for a company. Like, it's not like. So, like, people seem to be under the impression that there was, like, Diablo 4 just waiting in the background, and Diablo Immortal took the spot. Like, that was never going to happen. If Blizzard had a Diablo 4 to announce this year, they would have done it. Like, I don't see why people seem to think that, like, the announcement of that mobile title is anything other than, you know, what they have available. Like, I don't know, I can understand being annoyed with the announcement if, like, they, I don't know, like, if they just dropped their pants and mooned the audience and it says Diablo Immortal. Like, that's a reason to get mad. But, like, the fact that you had an expectation and they did not fulfill it, like, I don't know, get over yourselves, guys. So... But then again, I'm also like just this weirdo who always takes the side of the corporations. Give me more oil pipelines. You know, the bank should be allowed to do what they want. Give me 100% credit cards. No, I don't believe any of this stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I think it's reasonable. Like, it's okay to say what your expectations are. It's okay to say this maybe isn't quite for me. But I just sort of feel sometimes this level of criticism. Like, if I were to sit down and complain as much as, you know, the tweeting classes seem to, like, to me, I think they're just inviting, they're inviting the people who presumably are making products for them to ignore them. Like, if, you know, it's probably good that I'm not in charge of EA, but I would not be interested at all what anybody on Reddit has to say about the games, because people clearly keep buying them. You know, they did, if you look at it, everything that people complained about for Battlefront 2 is not in Battlefield 5. You know, there's no weapons that you can get for money. There's no special online. It's all cosmetic. There's no DLC. They're continuing to develop the game. You know, they're adding Battle Royale in spring 2019. Like, everything on the laundry list of things that people said was bad about Battlefront 2 is not in Battlefield 5. It is, you could not get, like, if you got a committee of, like, the most vocal people who downvote everything from EA to put together a list of features they want to see in the next Battlefield game, that's what that list would look like. And then people complain about women being in the game. Like, and I'll admit, it's a little weird to see, this will be something that I actually say for when I play Battlefield. I will admit it is slightly weird to see women Nazi soldiers. But that's kind of the point. Like, because there's something about that ideology that kept women in that subservient role. And I also understand that if you're going to let women be on the Allies, maybe you can just suspend disbelief for a minute. Like, I am not offended by that fact that there are women Nazi combatants, or German combatants specifically. But yeah, like, there's it just seems to me that if people are going to be complaining to that level over the most minor things, like, it's the cost is that when I complain about something, my complaint basically is drowned out, or it's like, you know, the gamers are always going to be mad, so we don't need to listen to them at all. And I think it's a shame, because, you know, I think if anything, we would want the channels for feedback to be, you know, open and clear, not full of this entitled nonsense. So anyway, there's Jessica here, probably looking for the one that we sent off the AML Demeter. I was happy to see her go. She chilled me to the bone. I just hope this Justicar doesn't mess up my operation.
That must be the ship Samara was looking for.
Should we head back to the police station and give her the name, or look around first?
We got time. Let's look around some more.
Yeah, I could have spent all that time I was talking looking around. I'm sure I've seen everything I can in here, but I'll do one last pass. Yeah, I don't know. But, like, when I'm reading what Captain Shield here says, it was placed as the last announcement, and due to all the anticipation, people were mad, and people thought it must have been Diablo 4 due to the amount of time it took for the other games to come out, and Diablo was around the same time span since Diablo 3. So, you know, all I can see here is something, you know, I don't see where this is Blizzard's fault, you know. And I'm not exactly a huge Activision Blizzard fan. I'm actually not that big of a Diablo fan, if I'm completely honest with you. I find the game rather repetitive, personally. So maybe I'm not the right demographic for this.
Go back to the spaceport main yard.
Let's go.
But I'm sort of at the point is like where exactly is the responsibility these people are taking? Like, are we seriously saying now that a publisher needs to, you know, take the temperature of the audience, that they need to, you know, that they need to have enough insight into their, like, basically, so it almost seems like there has to be a moratorium on Blizzard publishing anything but a Diablo title, because someone somewhere thought that, oh, well, you know, this has a, you know, a regular release schedule. We know that we always get a Diablo game, you know, after X years. Something that I don't actually think is true. You know, the first Diablo came out and there was no precedent. I don't know what the time between Diablo 2 and 3 was, or 3 and 4, but it's not like Diablo 3 has not been worked on. Like, that game is very different from when it first came out. So I'll be honest with you, like, I will definitely do, you know, my little bit of work when I think somebody's being cheated or when somebody's being, you know, being mistreated. I don't think releasing a game other than the one that you wanted is grounds for the kind of tantrum that people are throwing on Blizzard.
Cops don't admit it, but the Eclipse Sisters run this area.
Thank you for removing the Eclipse threat, Earth Clan. It will take them months to rebuild their organization. Also, merely out of curiosity, when you were poking about, did you perhaps run across a shipping manifest that belongs to me?
You never know when something like this might come in handy.
If it might change your mind, Earth Clan, returning that manifest would be very profitable for you. If you give it to the detective, her reward will be a pat on the back.
Well, that's fine, because I've got a just a little crick in my neck that really I'm sure a pat will...
have something that'll encourage the Justicar to leave, show it to her.
I got the name of the ship. Your fugitive left here 2 days ago on the AML Demeter.
Shepard, you impress me. You fulfilled your part of the bargain, and I will fulfill mine. I am ready to leave immediately, if that will satisfy your superiors, Detective.
You're free to go, Justicar. It has been an honor having you in my station. And it's nice you didn't kill me, too.
The Eclipse smuggled an Ardat Yakshi off-world. She's who you're really after, isn't she?
You continue to impress. Yes, I was here tracking the Ardat Yakshi. She is a dangerous criminal, and I will bring her to justice. After your mission is complete, of course.
Yeah, I read something to that effect. I think the one problem was the way that I saw kind of what you're saying, Sean. The way I saw it presented was sort of it's Blizzard's fault for building this expectation, and I'm kind of like, well, what expectation did they build? But yeah, I do think you I think you do have. I think you actually have a point in terms of the, you know, the target audience. I would sort of liken it to, you know, the commercial that you show or you shoot during the Super Bowl is maybe a bit different from the one that you put on, you know, on public broadcaster or something like that. That's actually probably not the best example. But yeah, I definitely think that there's going to be a different reaction. I think, though, the funny thing is that I see that as like one of the boring business discussions. So like, I think in any other circumstance, we would be talking about how like Blizzard really screwed up its marketing strategy by targeting this demographic rather than the other one. But that's ultimately not the conversation that we're having, and that's exactly where you're getting in terms of like the you know, the rampant harassment and stuff like that. Like, I'm trying to think of any other time when, like, I guess the only time I can think of a reaction like that is, you know, when Pepsi puts out like they attempt to you know, co-opt the hashtag resistance to sell you caramel colored sugar water. And even then people weren't like threatening to you know, threatening the CEO of Pepsi. It was just more like, it just seemed really lame. So yeah, no, I actually think you're absolutely right. Like there's probably an interesting discussion to be had in terms of how effective of a choice it is to announce it there. And that seems to be the exact opposite of the discussion which is happening, which seems to be that, like, I don't know, it's really weird that people seem to need to watch their back over any interaction with a vocal gaming minority now.
The Normandy is docked near the main trading floor. I'll see you aboard.
I must be sworn to your service so that I am never forced to choose between your orders and the Code. By the Code, I will serve you, Shepard. Your choices are my choices. Your morals are my morals. Your wishes are my code.
I never thought I'd see a Justicar swear an oath like that.
If you make me do anything extremely dishonorable, I may need to kill you when I'm released from my oath.
I can see that this is a very important act, Samara. Thank you.
Truly, the life of a Justicar can get lonely. I admit I am looking forward to serving with a company of honorable heroes. Shall we return to your ship?
I need to speak to the detective.
Thanks for getting Samara out of my district. I can tell my granddaughters about meeting a Justicar, and you've just upped my chances of living long enough to have grandkids.
I have proof that Eclipse killed the Volus merchant.
Let's see what you got there. Interesting. But I can't verify it. It would be inadmissible.
I vouch for Shepard and any evidence she brings forward.
I accept the judgment of the Justicar. Thanks, Shepard. I wasn't sure about trusting a stranger, and a human at that. But you came through. It's a shame this Elnora escaped. But I'll get her. At least you put her on the run. Okay, enough with all the congratulations. I've still got a spiraling crime rate.
I actually kind of like the fact that because I made the Paragon choice, the consequence was we didn't get the killer. Yeah, the other funny thing too, I don't mean to dwell on the Diablo thing that much, because I really actually don't know as much about it as I do some of the other, you know, gamers being awful stories. But I sort of look at it as the worst that can happen is if a company that makes something you like messes up and doesn't give you the thing that you want. Assuming that that even counts as messing up, by the way. Because obviously, you know, resources are finite and they need to decide where to put them best. It's not like we have a shortage of games. Like, if a Diablo game that you were thinking might come out didn't come out, you've got money available for other things. My God, maybe you can even buy a book. I don't know, like, it feels weird that, like, I like gaming a lot, but I can't ever really, I can't think of a time that I've gotten so worked up about a game that, like, its absence. It's like, okay, this is gonna sound really dumb because, like, like, Mass Effect kind of has its credentials, and I know this is not the kind of game that people expect me to get excited about. I'm really looking forward to playing Battlefield 5. Like, I'm, like, really excited. I put a lot of time in on Wednesday to make sure that I got enough points in Battlefield 1 so that I'll have all the hats when Battlefield 5 comes out. And Johnny was playing it yesterday. Johnny Big Time, for those of you who've not seen him. Wonderful streamer, highly recommend him. And the game, again, looks beautiful. Now, he's able to play that because he is subscribed to EA Origin Access Premier. I have EA Origin Access Basic because I'm really worried if I get Premier that I will never stream anything other than EA games for the rest of my days. So, you know, Battlefield 5's due out on the 20th. Because I did a pre-order and I got the deluxe edition, I'll be able to play it on the 14th. And I now realize that I could have played it on the 9th because, you know, if I had a Premier subscription. So this should be, you know, like, this should be it. I should be having my Diablo response now, right? Somebody who paid so much less than the game for me gets it like a week in advance. What the hell is wrong with EA? They're the worst company ever, blah, 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 blah. My answer today? Guess I'll play Mass Effect. I've actually got, I got a key for something else, which you will find out tomorrow. Hopefully there will be an extra stream that comes up. It's a game I like. It's actually one that's very relaxing and I probably should have played tonight. But yeah, like, this is the, to my mind, this is the exact same thing. Like, I saw on Twitter that, like, oh, people can play Battlefield 5 now. This is awesome. I thought I was gonna get early. You know, I was genuinely excited. I finally get to see this thing I've been looking forward to. And it was taken away from me because I realized I didn't pay for the monthly subscription. But, like, I don't know. I didn't even have that big of a twinge of disappointment. It was just sort of like, oh, it would have been cool to do a thing about, like, forms of memorial for Remembrance Day. But I have to do it a few days afterwards, like.
I have proof that Pitney 4 smuggled in red sand and illegal weapons tech.
I'll send in some officers to arrest him and his cohorts. This is a big help, Shepard. I can't do much to thank you, but we do have a small discretionary bounty fund. Take this.
I'll be on my way.
Be well. Value the Justicar. I've never heard of one working with a human before.
So I'm slightly curious if I'm able to get back to the,
I'm still grounded. What's going on?
No, I cannot. Alright. I need to find a way to actually finish all the Liara T'Soni bits. And sorry guys, I know this has been a little bit more just like chatty. There's not a whole lot going on this, but I started off a little bit scrambled and I'm still just getting over the day, so
I hear you can buy red sand from the Eclipse. Just don't cross them.
Maybe if I talk to the detective again?
I am ready to leave if you are. Shall we return to your ship?
Let's go.
Right. Recruited Samara for the team. An elite military shotgun capable of rapid fire, this weapon is deadly at short range, but ineffective at long range. Effective against shields and biotic barriers. Weak against armor. Upgrades the Katana shotgun. Manufactured by Arake Technologies, the Scimitar features twin Mass Effect generators, giving it a more rapid rate of fire than the traditional shotgun. This weapon was created for the Eclipse Mercenary Band, but is rapidly becoming popular with Bloodpack mercs as well. Upgrade to biotic damage. Standard firmware shipping with bioamps is designed to work for a variety of alien races and nervous systems. By hacking this firmware to relax built-in safety protocols, more powerful Mass Effect fields can be generated. Each hack must be done carefully, tuned to tuned to the individual's nervous system, or there's risk of nervous system damage, sensation loss, or blindness. Many ducats, 30,000 in Cerberus funding, 25,200 credits found, 2,000 platinum found, and a partridge in a pear tree. How are we for time? Actually, I'm probably only an hour shorter than where I was before. Would you guys like to hear, so if you want, there can be discussion and chat in terms of the thing. The original plan was to do a story-based mission and then...
Welcome to the Normandy, Samara. We've studied your profile extensively. With your skills, I think you'll be an excellent addition to our team.
Thank you. From an organization such as yours, that is high praise indeed.
I've seen Samara's biotic powers at work. They're substantial.
We still don't know what we're going to find when we hit the collectors.
I will be prepared for whatever we encounter.
Where shall we put you?
A room that looks out on the great empty void would be most comforting.
Put her in the observation room on Deck 3.
Thank you. I must meditate on the day's events.
Captain Shield, I normally just go for my preferred team. So usually it's just Tali and Jack, because it's just a combination of weapons that work well for me, but I do plan on doing a lot of the special missions for people. So in those cases you have to bring the character you want to get the loyalty of along, and usually I change the composition on the basis of that. Alright. If you wanted, I mean, I've just kind of been monologuing the whole time on meaningless things. So the original plan was supposed to be to try and talk about the quote-unquote meaning of the story. I don't actually have a lot. So as cool as the Samara mission is, I actually don't have a lot to say about that.
New message at your private terminal.
I don't really feel... I feel there was probably a little bit more for me to talk about in terms of the contract with the colony survivors as opposed to recruiting the Justicar. I do have a little bit of work to attend to on Ilium, so I can keep doing that, but I was kind of hoping... Yeah, I was kind of hoping for a little more meat to discuss. From Jarrett, greetings, Commander Shepard. The Artisoni gave me your contact information. I was one of the cleaning crew at Dantius Towers. You helped me get out of there. According to Tisoni, you also found Thane. He took down some of the Eclipse mercs trying to gun us down, and I wondered if you could pass along my thanks. The way he moved, one was dead before they even knew he was there. He'd snap another's neck, then shot a third, all in the space of a few heartbeats. It was incredible. He moved like a dancer, with grace and power and constant motion. Seeing him changed my life. Woke up something in me I don't fully understand yet. I don't know what I'm going to do, but Solarian lives are too short to waste as custodians, especially when there's so much else out there. I'm going to find something that lets me capture what I saw in him, that beauty, that aesthetic perfection. I'm also going to buy some nice clothes. So if you could tell him that, or whatever parts you think are appropriate, I'd appreciate it. Sincerely, Jarrett. Oh yeah, I'm happy to do the system talk. It's just, I don't know. This isn't working. Game. Okay, I'm gonna have to crash out. I hope I do not lose too much progress. Yeah, I don't mind doing the system talk, Captain Shield. I just kind of wish that I had more to say about the... I wish I had more to say about the mission itself, because this, the thing that really gets me about Mass Effect 2, and one of the reasons why I think it kind of rekindled a okay, so like I've mentioned that like I went from non-gaming to gaming. The original reason for that was when I went to Vancouver, it was to work in the film industry, and I did not have money. Like, I had what I needed to live where I was living. I had a computer for editing, and it was a Mac, and I had like one game on it.
Welcome to the Normandy, Samara. We studied your profile extensively. With your skills, I think you'll be an excellent addition to our team.
Thank you. From an organization such as yours, that is high praise indeed.
I've seen Samara's biotic powers at work. They're substantial.
We still don't know what we're going to find when we hit the collectors.
I will be prepared for whatever we encounter.
Where shall we put you?
A room that looks out on the great empty void would be most comforting.
Put her in the observation room on deck 3.
Thank you. I must meditate on the day's events.
But yeah, so again, like part of this is that I am reacting when I played this game. I was reacting to how gaming had just changed and the types of stories that it was presenting, and part of that is just a pure like I've been out of it for a while, and I'm now realizing just how cool all this stuff is, and especially just, you know, looking at it, I was like, you know, my God, this is like real life.
Commander, you've received a new message at your private terminal.
But it's more than that. Like, you know, there's something, I think, in the best moments, especially for a game like Mass Effect 2, I think the thing that really draws me to this, and why I sometimes get a little disappointed with myself in terms of what I can talk about in terms of Mass Effect 2 specifically, at the really basic level, it's like, okay, so basically, you know, sure, it's not a fantasy world, it's a space world, and the Asari are the space elves, and, you know, the Volus are the space dwarves, and you've got the Krogan orcs, and, you know, you can, if you want, you can open up a little, you know, menu in the game, and oh, here's all the exposition, you know. But that would be very unfair to Mass Effect 2, because there's really interesting ideas in some of these stories. And actually, interestingly enough, and one thing I really like about Mass Effect 2 is it actually seems that sometimes the minor stories are the ones that will give you, you know, some food for thought. So, you know, for instance, you know, this idea of the colonists being, you know, being used as lab rats in a, you know, I think the term's legal, slimy but legal form. You can, you know, sure, they've got all the documentation. If it were to go to court, it would probably be upheld, and yet clearly they did not know what they were going into. And again, this is something that is unfortunately true of real life. Or again, the specific details that I really like are things like, you know, the obvious choice to make when you encounter a Quarian that is in indentured servitude. If you want to do the ultimate Paragon option, you buy their contract. But this world is thought through enough that they say, you know, you think you're the only person who thought you could do this? Like, get over yourself, Shepard. You know, here are the following things that are in this legally binding contract, which, you know, if you bothered to know anything about how this place works, you know, you should be embarrassed that you thought that you could do this thing. And to me, I feel like that makes...
Excuse me, my sources indicate you were in a warehouse recently. Did you by any chance forward a questionable shipping note to a Mr. Thax?
It looks suspicious, so I passed it on.
Hey, hackers.
I'm a representative for Mr. Thax. He's very grateful to you. Please accept this as a gift for bringing the shipping irregularities to his attention.
What happens to the shipping agent who was cheating Thax?
That depends on how sincere her apology is, and how willing she is to correct her mistake.
Do you want help finding the person who cheated Thax?
Thank you, but that won't be necessary. Mr. Thax will be making a series of polite calls. Hopefully a confrontation will not be required.
It was my pleasure.
Have a pleasant day.
Diplomatic Krogan. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have offered to try and hunt down the person and break their legs. But yeah, so like, I think, again, this was probably the right game to play at that time, because it's not that I disliked gaming. I didn't have the opportunity to, to play things when this first came out. But again, to have this, there's lots of different stories, and I think the thing that I like the most about this is the ability to, again, I like to compare it on the Telltale front, which is that there might be an ultimate destination that you're heading to. Like, I've never really been bothered by games that have sort of a fixed ending. I do sometimes get a little bit bothered when they really sell you on the your choices matter angle, because that always seems to be a check that the rest of the game can't really cash. But I do like the fact that you can sort of nudge the story in certain directions, because in the end, I think the motivations behind why somebody makes the decisions that they do is just as important as the actual action. So, I mean, this isn't a Mass Effect example, but you can think of The Walking Dead. So, like, one thing you can sort of say about The Walking Dead or The Wolf Among Us is that, a lot of the quote-unquote your choices matter choices ultimately determine whether or not those people show up in the final cutscene. And I know that was a big complaint about Mass Effect 3, which I haven't played yet, so I don't have any strong opinions about. But then you think about something like what happens in the first Walking Dead, and you have a journalist character who knows that you are a convicted felon, and in fact specifically for murder. And you have this other guy who doesn't have that knowledge. And you have to make a decision later on in terms of which ones get taken by the zombies. Or at least it's highly suggested that it's going to decide which one of these people gets saved. Now, depending on when you find out that information, the decision, it could be an extremely cutthroat decision to say, I can kill a few birds with one stone by letting this journalist die. And that's a very different perspective on Lee than the one that says, even though this person knows this really difficult information about me that, could potentially come back to harm me, I'm still going to save them. And, whether you even decide to have that, like whether or not that's a decision that you make or whether or not that guides your decision, again, these are the things that I think sort of make the playthrough a little bit more interesting. They're the exact same chains of events, and yet this little story that you build for the character is so interesting. That's kind of why, the reason why I struggled so much with the Infiltrator background when I played Mass Effect 1 was the fact that I have a very specific idea of who this character was, and it also informs some of those, like, why did you go renegade at that moment choices, because I don't know, like I like this idea of an implied backstory to this character, which is never actually apparent, but is always implied through specific things that they have. The same way that, if you run into somebody and somebody says one remark and they react very strongly to it, there's probably something in their biography that, led them to react that way, even if they're not necessarily conscious of it. And again, that's one of the things that makes Mass Effect so rewarding for me to play. But I also sometimes think it's one of these things that never really gets properly appreciated in the games, because people really just seem to want that big headline. Like, if you don't have 50 different cutscenes at the end, you know, based on whether you chose the chicken or the fish in that first dinner scene, it sometimes it's perceived that the game is a failure, which I think is a shame, because what really attracted me to it, again, especially after coming out of working in science fiction television, like being able to play a story that existed in a world that was as credible as this. It wasn't just space elves and dwarves, but something that really felt like they'd put some thought into it, and more importantly, that you could make some mappings in terms of things that were happening in the world, and how, you know, again, cities like Ilium are sort of, you know, Toronto or New York kind of on steroids, and this huge financial center. And just this whole idea is like, you know, its location in the galaxy, you know, makes it an ideal trading port. And in order to be able to, you know, realize its, you know, its advantageous position, in order to ensure that this economy is able to thrive and that the people who live on there are actually going to have something to do, they've needed to restrict, or they've needed to remove some of the regulations that were around. And then you can add to that is like, you know, but maybe this isn't quite something that Asari society is able to accept. So in this case, it winds up being this kind of corporate controlled world rather than something that officially exists in Asari space. And this, of course, has implications in terms of what it means for Samara to be here, that this role of the Justicar appearing on a world like this is now potentially a huge diplomatic incident. To give you an idea, you know, none of this is necessarily far-fetched when you consider the fact that in Canada, Global Affairs tweeted out something about Saudi Arabia, and they recalled their diplomats. It was almost to a point that all the medical students in Canada from Saudi Arabia were basically told to go home. They ultimately didn't do that, but like basically a total shutdown of diplomatic relations on the basis of one tweet. So, you know, this is not even science fiction. This is stuff that happens with us, but there are also little details that are very easy to miss. It's the same reason why, like, whenever I was shooting a movie, I always liked shooting on location, even though it's harder to light, because like if you're shooting in a restaurant, the plates are stacked in like an odd way that no art director is ever going to be able to quite capture. Like, places just have this like lived-in quality to it. And I think that's the thing that's really attracted me to Mass Effect, is the fact that those details seem there, and it's almost like somebody just spent a while just hanging around in this world that doesn't exist, and that they actually bothered to work out the details. And it I don't know, it worked really well for me. So anyway, sorry guys, how's the sexiest Canadian on Twitch? That's definitely not true. I don't even know if I have the sexiest Canadian voice, but thank you for saying so, Joshy man. For those of you who don't know what Joshy man's talking about, there was a terrible moment in Crusader Kings on Monday where I lost a very important book.
Shepard, it's good to see you again. So, what can I do for you?
How's your own work going?
Everyone needs information, Shepard. You want to know why I don't drop everything to join you? I need to get that data. It should be about friendship or trust. But that's not the way it works on Ilium. Let me know when you hack those terminals. Give me that, and I can talk to you.
I thought I did hack the terminal.
I'll take care of it.
When you hack one, a server will open somewhere nearby for a short time. You can download data from there, if you hurry. Thank you, Shepard. This may help me pay a great debt.
Oh yeah, this is the other thing. I mean, we talked about it last... We talked about it last week, but I really like the fact that Liara went from an academic to an information broker. And again, like, you did not need to do the, you know, over the years, you know, you don't need a big full bit of exposition for that. You just needed, you know, basically you You're confronted with her, and they actually specifically withhold the information, which means that there's all sorts of thoughts going on in the back of my head as to what possibly happened to her, to make that, basically to make that be the case. I don't think I'm in the right spot, but I know the Fedora guy is working on it.
Maybe after work we could catch a vid or something.
Oh, that's sweet. But I'm okay. A little dry spell isn't gonna kill me.
We could watch Fleet and Flotilla. It kind of goes the trail of the...
I am. Actually, the main reason for that, Joshy Man, was somebody said that apparently... is it Jennifer Hale who plays her? Anyways, somebody had said that this is, like, apparently the only way you're supposed to play Mass Effect. And I played a Masseur the first time through, so I thought I would do it. I'm not entirely sure playing a lady is really, like... I don't think it's really blown my mind, but...
You'll never believe what happened. I've got the data. Don't ask, just call it a gift.
Okay, I was gonna say, it's like, wait a minute, you're telling me this? I don't know, so I'll leave it to you guys because I feel like I'm not really doing a good job of pushing the dialogue forward. For those of you who have played Mass Effect, what...
The one that causes permanent neural scarring?
So I guess the first question is what made you try it, first of all? And if you are a fan, what is it that made it work for you? Assuming it does.
You're sure gateway weapons and armor are good enough for Eclipse?
Yeah, I've got a friend in Eclipse. She told me what I needed to get.
Good. I'm pretty good at bypassing firewalls. Maybe they're looking for techs.
Ooh! Buying one of everything. Joshy Man tried Mass Effect 1 after Mass Effect 2 came out. You bought it on the hype. To be honest, you never got deep into the game because Shepard got stuck on geometry. You rage quit the game and never looked back, but you do own ME1 and ME2. Oh, interesting. Yeah,
Oh, blue rose of Ilium, let your roots dig deep into the hot soil of Tuchanka. Let our scorching sun and sheeting rain turn your supple beauty into strength. For if our love is to survive, it must grow thorns to pierce the hand of any that would uproot it.
I got more frustrated with Mass Effect 1 than I thought was particularly fair, and I think a lot of that was because I was streaming it. When I actually reflected on the stuff that was starting to...
What about you? Going to try and make it?
The store's over there. And don't get cute. The whole place is monitored.
I think it's just gonna... I'll try it again, but I'm assuming it's just gonna give me the same... But yeah, like, when I... Oh.
It's just, we're looking for weapons. Shouldn't you be taking this seriously?
Hey, I'm 60 years old and finally out of my... You can sell something that dangerous with just a contract and a waiver? These are the Terminus systems.
Shepard, this is Liara. I've got the data. Come see me when you've got a moment.
I have a moment now.
I don't know, that still sounds like an awful thing to legalize.
All the dangers are right there.
Okay, listen, give Thax a full refund, do you hear me? He knows, I don't know how, it doesn't matter. Credit him a full refund now, and then get your ass someplace safe. Leave me alone. I can't talk to anybody.
I'm the one who gave Thax the info, though. But yeah, anyways, it's kind of funny. I really try to resist that urge whenever I play stuff on stream, because
You say these things, and I don't know. Maybe it's
there's definitely a very strong tendency to want to have something to say. The worst one, especially whenever there's like a proper, if there's like an actual, world event that happens or something like that. There's definitely a very strong urge for a broadcaster to have, their take. And especially when you're playing games, which already have something of a culture of, talking about and specifically usually criticizing in harsh terms, I think it leads to a tendency for people on broadcasts to just shout out the first thing that comes to their head. Usually it winds up being negative, and so, the hobby is almost experienced in this really negative form in terms of just saying is like, well, this was dumb, this was, this was a waste of time. And I did actually fall into that in terms of Mass Effect 1. I kind of felt like the side missions were not really worth the time. But when I was reflecting on it, like, I enjoyed the later story missions so much, and that's partially because my character had been built up and I had that experience. Like, I can't just disentangle the two. So that's one of the times I really let myself down in terms of letting sort of the pressure and the urgency I was feeling in terms of broadcasting affect how I was thinking about the game. Because when I actually sat down and reflected on it, it was probably not nearly as bad as it was. And if I had removed the pressure of like wanting to finish Mass Effect 1 by a certain time, I probably wouldn't have felt that way about it. Sean says you played Neverwinter Nights way back in early high school or something. You've been a big fan of BioWare ever since. Big fan of Mass Effect in particular for the sci-fi world building. Yeah, and the funny thing is I am actually usually one of those people who gets really annoyed when the game front loads a bunch of exposition. Like, what I think counts as world building for a lot of people is just this interminable dialogue that explains all the factions and the politics that's going on behind the scenes, and I'm terrified that there's going to be a quiz at some point later in the dialogue. It's like, what? You didn't know the Varanthians were fighting the Haemons? Oh my god, minus 3,000 XP. And I'm like, why? It's like, it's the Ottomans and it's the Venetians. Why can't you just come clean about this? But Mass Effect seemed to avoid it. I do kind of like the fact that if you want, I mean, like, one of the things that's really worked for me is being able to opt into the codex, because obviously I'm always looking for stuff to read. But I don't know, like, I do like the opening crawl because it's, it's like Blade Runner or like Star Wars, so I think that's fine. But being able to opt in is nice. The only thing I will say, I would prefer if they didn't have the recording for the primary codex entries, but again, that's a streamer thing, that's not like a game player thing. Again, especially Mass Effect 2, like being able to, again, I think probably it's not even necessarily the overall, like the macro level is kind of cool. I really do like this arc of sort of humanity finding its place in the galaxy, and particularly how Mass Effect 1, you really get to decide the form that takes. Do they take their place as a member of a galactic community, or is it effectively humanity taking over? Which I think is kind of fun. But as I was saying a little bit earlier, I think the thing that really sold me on this is the fact that it's not just that it's an interesting science fiction world, but how many little details are in there? Like, I always feel like I always keep expecting it to finish at the surface level, and they always go one step further than where I expect it to end. And I've always been delighted by that in this game. So that's probably just a longer way of saying that I like the world building too. But I'm always kind of scared of the term world building because I always assume it's going to be this like character who just goes on forever. Yeah, I think too, like, one thing, this is the funny thing, because I am very much I'm very much a macro guy. Like, I actually love it when things go over the top. Like, one of the reasons I like the Battlefield games is because they're kind of like interactive Tom Clancy stories. And like, I'm not gonna say, like, I do not kick back with a fine beverage and like read Tom Clancy, but sometimes you just want to go to Disneyland. Like, sometimes you just want to put on an America hat and and eat a hot dog and like watch people shoot each other. But I don't know, like, I guess there's just something about the fact that there's been so many little details and so many interesting little twists on the story that I care a lot more about the big grand space opera. And I have a feeling if I didn't know little details, I'm really fond of the Quarians in general. I know Tali is like a really beloved character, but I just like the idea of the Quarians in general. I particularly love their overcoming of the stereotypes and the hostility that people have towards them. So the fact that I sort of feel that struggle, or certain details in terms of all these people I'm running into. One of the things I like the most is how I'm constantly running into people from the previous game, because that's selling me a lot more on Mass Effect 2. And so because this seems to be populated by so many people that I have just that little bit of connection with, I suddenly feel a lot more invested in saving the galaxy. So I do not have an America hat, Joshy man. That is the metaphorical America hat.
Shepard, it's good to see you again.
Only because I have the
Thank you for
data.
getting me that system data. Here, it's not much, but hopefully it will help you on your mission. Do you remember the Shadow Broker? With the data you got me, I may be able to find information caches from his agents.
Are you on the run from the Shadow Broker? I can help you.
Actually, it would be more accurate to say that the Shadow Broker is on the run from me. We crossed paths not long after you died. Since then, I've been working to take him down. With this data, I'm a step closer.
I've never seen you ready to execute someone in cold blood. What did the Shadow Broker do to you?
I was on a job with a friend. The Shadow Broker's people caught us. My friend didn't escape. I don't know if he's dead or being interrogated. But I need to find him. I owe him my life. And I need to make the Shadow Broker pay for what he did.
You can't come with me because you're after the Shadow Broker? What if I help you find him?
I'm sorry, Shepard. The galaxy doesn't work that way. I need to find leads, trace information. I need to work. I can't do that on the Normandy. I wish I could.
You're allowed to like what you want, Joshy man. A recording of someone's voice is a public good. Your consumption of that audio does not deprive another individual. It's not like a sandwich. Like, you listening to me talk does not deprive anybody else from listening to me talk.
Let me know if there's anything else I can do.
Thanks, Shepard. I will. Now, is there anything else I can help you with?
Nope, I exhausted your dialogue
I'll talk to you later, Liara.
2 streams ago. All right. I'm kind of done for tonight. I'm sorry for those of you who are expecting something a little bit more substantial, but if you are interested, as is usually my case, I do one batch of primary and then I read a batch of secondary. So so basically, two things. So one, if you would like to come along with the host, I would appreciate you showing the support to whatever broadcaster we wind up hosting at the end of the night. If you don't want to wait to hear the sort of the end of all of this, I completely understand. But I figured I will, at least for those of you who are wondering where the hell any worthwhile content is, maybe I can let BioWare's writers do what I failed to do tonight. So, yeah, I don't know. We will definitely host somebody at the end of this, but I usually try and go through a full primary entry. We'll see what's available in planets and locations and maybe technology, and then I'll do the secondary things. So
humans detected Aiea as a regional hub of Asari commerce awash in riches. Ilium is infamous for its abusive labor practices and legalization of nearly everything except murder. As such, Ilium is the preferred production site for weapons and pharmaceuticals that would be illegal nearly everywhere else, made even more lucrative by legal indentured servitude. Among the biotics-related pharmaceutical producers is the Dantius Corporation, a rising star in galactic commerce. Despite the dangers of its products, Ilium is renowned for glamour, luxury, and safety, provided by near-total surveillance, making it a favored tourist destination. Countless celebrities maintain palatial estates on Ilium and in its capital Nos Astra. The sole obstacle to business on Ilium is its extensive bureaucracy, tolerated only for its provision of security. Regardless of the character of its economy, Ilium's self-congratulatory media exalts its own society with the provincial arrogance of new money, glorifying in sexiest CEOs and 10 richest residents lists.
I know I said this before, but I actually think Ilium is probably the one planet that I would like to see realized in a modern take on Mass Effect. So I think I talk about engines way too much. I usually talk them more as sort of like an input to a production process rather than like, oh, everybody knows Frostbite's the best one. Oh, you use Unity, Unreal's so much better. Like that isn't very interesting. Or maybe it's more interesting if you know what you're doing, but I really don't. So, but I will say, like, given all of the descriptions of Ilium and knowing, you know, it's obviously unfair to rate this game by the standards of what it is right now, but definitely one thing that has been developed since this game came out is the ability to realize sort of larger crowds. And this game does actually, I think it does a fairly good job of like making the world feel lived in, and sometimes they do that through cutscenes, and sometimes they do that through sort of creating circumstances. But this, you know, especially this last paragraph here, I really feel like of all of the planets that I've been on so far, this is the one that would really benefit from sort of seeing the crowds and just the bustle and the commerce. Like, it's one of these things, like, even though nowadays, I'm going to refer to stocks again, even though nowadays most stock trading happens on servers, everyone associates Wall Street with those guys in the jackets shouting orders. And there is just something about, you know, even though financial securities have always been about information, they're always about, you know, it's not a mistake. Mercury, commerce, it's the same thing. And then Mercury, the messenger of the gods. It's always information. But the most powerful kind of images that we have and representations of what's going on here has always been sort of these crowds and whether, and I mean, again, just in terms of like telling a story visually, which is still what happens inside of games, although, you know, one of the reasons I like Cultist Simulator so much is because of what happens inside your head during it. But usually, and Mass Effect's usually great for its visual storytelling, but, you know, you're either in the crowd or you're outside of it. Like, there's usually sort of these physical manifestations of the winners and losers in these sorts of environments. And so, you know, Ilium, this really heavily commercial planet, one with tons of new money, ones with extravagance, you know, you almost kind of get the image of sort of like the space Dubai or something like that. Although, you know, Dubai isn't so much of a financial capital so much as it's just this place with extreme wealth, but also, you know, the people who are building it are not necessarily living in the best of circumstances. I just sort of think knowing that sort of modern technology has largely been moving forward, you know, since Mass Effect, there's been a lot of attention paid to being able to realize sort of larger crowds and, you know, sort of these selling you on the more open environment. You know, again, I really hate it when somebody's like, I want you to make X favorite game, but with a modern engine. That's always a really terrible idea. But I would admit, I would actually really like to see what Ilium would look like in a modern realization, just because I sort of think there's a lot. I just really feel like there's a really interesting location in a modern game that's just dying to be realized through that description. Anyways, technology.
Biotics is the ability of rare individuals to manipulate dark energy and create Mass Effect fields through the use of electrical impulses from the brain. Intense training and surgically implanted amplifiers are necessary for a biotic to produce Mass Effect fields powerful enough for practical use. The relative strength of biotic abilities varies greatly among species and with each individual. There are 3 branches of biotics. Telekinesis uses mass-lowering fields to levitate or impel objects. Mass-raising kinetic fields are used to block or pin objects. Spatial distortion uses rapidly shifting mass fields to shred objects. Most organic species are capable of developing biotic abilities, though there are risks involved. Biotics are the result of an in utero exposure to element 0. This usually causes fatal cancers in the victim, but in rare cases, it coalesces into nodules within the fetus's developing nervous system.
Hello, DSO561. I will just caution you, we're basically done for the night, although I am doing some codex entries. I usually do 1 batch of primaries, and then I read out another batch of secondaries. So if you're okay with that, I'm very happy to have you around, but I also don't want to misrepresent what's going on. It's been a pretty low-key stream for so far, and I think we're just going to be ending on some of the reading. So very happy you stopped by, though. Isaacson says, I like the Breath of the Wild and the way that it makes the world feel lived in, but also empty in a very intentional way. Like, there used to be a lot of people, and now there simply isn't because they've died. See, I haven't actually played, I think I've said this before, the only Zelda game I played was, it's the one that's a dream. It's Link's Awakening, I think.
When subjected to an electrical current, the rare material dubbed Element 0, or EZO, emits a dark energy field that raises or lowers the mass of all objects within it. This mass effect is used in countless ways, from generating artificial gravity to manufacturing high-strength construction materials.
To naming video
games.
games.
Most prominently used to enable faster-than-light space travel. EZO is generated when solid matter, such as a planet, is affected by the energy of a star going supernova. The material is common in the asteroid debris that orbits neutron stars and pulsars. These are dangerous places to mine, requiring extensive use of robotics, telepresence, and shielding to survive the incredible radiation from the dead star. Only a few major corporations can afford the setup costs required to work these primary sources. Humanity discovered refined Element Zero at the Prothean Research Station on Mars, allowing them to create Mass Effect fields and develop FTL travel.
This is another neat idea here, because obviously the revelation in terms of the Protheans not being the generator of the Mass Effect relays, but there's an interesting implication through this idea here. So if you can't develop FTL travel without Element Zero, and Element Zero does not occur naturally within the solar system, obviously the implication here is that the Protheans were the ones to put the refined Element Zero on Mars. But of course, there's always that question. It's like, was the original event, like, was sort of the trap that the Reapers laid being the introduction of this substance into solar systems? And again, that's actually the one thing that I really liked about the big reveal at the end of Mass Effect, is the idea. And again, it's not even necessarily a new science fiction idea. I just thought it was a really neat way of introducing it, which is, of course, a lot of good science fiction is about the risks of technology, right? Like Terminator is a hell of a movie, and I mean, I used to have nightmares as a kid of computers trying to kill me, so I should have been terrified by that movie, but I wasn't. So, the Reapers are just following on in that tradition, but I just really like this idea of, I suppose, Prometheus in reverse almost. But I think the thing that I like is that there's enough little strands kind of going on in terms of saying, like, knowing what we know now, having played the first game, why was it that we were given, the assumption is the Protheans were the one to give the technology originally. It wasn't. It turns out to be the Reapers. How much do the Protheans wind up doing the Reapers' work, even unintentionally? And then, of course, I suppose the next question would be, is it also potentially a means of resistance? Because clearly, if there weren't to be that technology, then maybe we just wind up harvested instead. But it does seem to be that the Reapers do want species to realize a certain level of technological sophistication before they do that. So, I don't know. It's a neat one. I like the fact that the thing is, again, it's well thought enough that you're able to have that little back and forth in the back of your mind. Only issue you got with Mass Effect 2 is grinding resources for upgrades. Finding Element Zero was quite a challenge. Definitely not for me, but that's because I spend a lot of time on stream drilling up resources. Gives me more chances to talk, which you probably have noticed I like to do a lot. And by the way, apologies that Diso, someone else got there before you, or 560 people got it there before you, but you are the most precious Diso to me because you're here.
Element Zero can increase or decrease the mass of a volume of space-time when subjected to an electrical current. With a positive current, mass is increased. With a negative current, mass is decreased. The stronger the current, the greater the magnitude of the dark energy mass effect. In space, low-mass fields allow FTL travel and inexpensive surface-to-orbit transit. High-mass fields create artificial gravity and push space debris away from vessels. In manufacturing, low-mass fields permit the creation of evenly blended alloys, while high-mass compaction creates dense, sturdy construction materials. The military makes extensive use of mobility-enhancing technologies, with Mass Effect utilizing fighting vehicles standard frontline issue in most military forces. Mass Effect fields are also essential in the creation of kinetic barriers or shields to protect against enemy fire.
Captain Shield, that's pretty easy. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? The donation button's there for a reason. Depends how badly they want that #1 spot.
Mass relays are feats of Prothean engineering advanced far beyond the technology of any living species. They are enormous structures scattered throughout the stars and can create corridors of virtually mass-free space, allowing instantaneous transit between locations separated by years or even centuries of travel using conventional FTL drives. Primary mass relays can propel ships thousands of light years, often from one spiral arm of the galaxy to another. However, they have fixed one-to-one connections. A primary relay connects to one other primary relay and nowhere else. Secondary relays can only propel ships across a few hundred light years. However, they are omnidirectional. A secondary relay can send a ship to any other relay within its limited range. There are many dormant primary relays whose corresponding twins have not yet been located. These are left inactive until their partner is charted, as established civilizations are unwilling to blindly open a passage that might connect them to a hostile species.
Clearly, they've never played Stellaris.
Omni-tools are handheld devices that combine a computer microframe, sensor analysis pack, and manufacturing fabricator. Versatile and reliable, an Omni-tool can be used to analyze and adjust the functionality of most standard equipment, including weapons and armor, from a distance. The fabrication module can rapidly assemble small three-dimensional objects from common reusable industrial plastics, ceramics, and light alloys. This allows for field repairs and modifications to most standard items, as well as the reuse of salvaged equipment. Omni-tools are standard issue for soldiers and first-in colonists.
Okay. Battle of the Citadel. In 2183, a rogue Spectre named Saren Arterius attacked the Citadel through a functioning mass relay hidden inside the statue in the Presidium. Saren brought a combined force of Krogan and Geth infantry from Ilos, timing the attack so that he would be at the Citadel's controls when the Geth fleet and his flagship, Sovereign, arrived. In the battle that followed, the Destiny Ascension dreadnought evacuated the Citadel Council, but ordered the ward's arms closed, sealing them and the Geth inside an impregnable shell, cutting off any reinforcements or escape. This combative tactic would have wholly destroyed the Council fleet were it not for the actions of Commander Shepard, who had followed Saren through the relay from Ilos. Led by Shepard's ship Normandy, the Systems Alliance 5th Fleet assembled under the command of Admiral Hackett, who insisted on giving me little jobs around the galaxy, and waited just outside the Citadel's closed arms. Meanwhile, Shepard fought Saren's forces inside the Citadel and eventually forced the ward arms open again. The Normandy defended the Destiny Ascension as it fled, saving the lives of the Citadel Council. Taking its cue from the Normandy, the 5th Fleet supported the withdrawal and took heavy losses from Sovereign's advanced firepower. At about the same time, Shepard killed Saren. Sovereign's once impervious kinetic barrier overloaded, and the 5th Fleet focused its military might to shatter the flagship. The Geth fleet was soon decimated without its leader. In gratitude for the many human lives sacrificed to save it, the Council made the unprecedented move of offering humans a chance to become a Council race. Ambassador Donald Udina and Captain David Anderson accepted this honor on behalf of the species. Citadel Conventions. These diplomatic talks occurred in the wake of the Krogan rebellions as a response to the destruction of the conflict and an attempt to distance the Council from the brutal Krogan warfare. The conventions regulate the use of weapons of mass destruction. A WMD causes environmental alteration to a world. A bomb that produces a large crater is not considered a WMD. A bomb that causes a nuclear winter is. Use of WMD is forbidden on garden worlds like Earth, with ecospheres that can readily support a population. If a habitable world is destroyed, it will not be replaced for millions of years. The conventions do not forbid the use of WMD on hostile worlds or in sealed space station environments. Many militaries continue to develop and maintain stockpiles. The conventions graded weapons of mass destruction into tiers of concern. Tier 1 is the greatest threat to galactic peace. Tier 1, large kinetic impactors such as asteroid drops or deorbiting space stations, effectively free and available in any system in the form of debris left over from planetary accretion. Kinetic impactors are the weapon of choice for terrorists and third galaxy nations. Tier 2, uncontrolled self-replicating weapons such as nanotechnology, viral, or bacteriological organisms. von Neumann devices, and destructive computer viruses. These weapons can lie dormant for millennia, waiting for a careless visitor to carry them onto another world. Tier 3. Large energy burst weapons, such as nuclear or antimatter warheads. Tier 4. Alien species deliberately introduced to crowd out native life forms necessary for the health of an ecosystem. Ecological tampering can take years to bear fruit, making it difficult to prove. Citadel Council. The Council is an executive committee composed of representatives from the Asari Republics, the Turian Hierarchy, and the Salarian Union. Though they have no official power over the independent governments of other species, the Council's decisions carry great weight throughout the galaxy. No single Council race is strong enough to defy the other two, and all have a vested interest in compromise and cooperation. Each of the Council species has general characteristics associated with the various aspects of governing the galaxy. The Asari are typically seen as diplomats and mediators. The Salarians gather intelligence and information. The Turians provide the bulk of the military and peacekeeping forces. Any species granted an embassy on the Citadel is considered an associate member, bound by the accords of the Citadel Conventions. Associate members may bring issues to the attention of the Council, though they have no input on the decision. The Human Systems Alliance became an associate member of the Citadel in 2165. Citadel Space. Citadel space is an unofficial term referring to any region of space controlled by a species that acknowledges the authority of the Citadel Council. At first glance, it appears this territory encompasses most of the galaxy. In reality, however, less than 1% of the stars have been explored. Even Mass Effect FTL drive is slow relative to the volume of the galaxy. Empty space and systems without suitable drive discharge sites are barriers to exploration. Only the mass relays allow ships to jump hundreds of light years in an instant, the key to expanding across an otherwise impassable galaxy. Whenever the new galaxy is activated, the destination system is rapidly developed. From that hub, FTL drive is used to expand to nearby star clusters. The result is a number of densely populated clusters, thinly spread across a vast expanse of space, connected by the mass relay network. The Volus Council seat? I don't trust them. Citadel Station, Citadel Security Services. Citadel Security is a volunteer police service answering to the Citadel Council. The 200,000 constables of CSEC are responsible for maintaining public order in the densely populated Citadel. They also provide pirate suppression, customs enforcement, and search and rescue throughout the Citadel cluster. CSEC has 6 divisions. Enforcement, uniformed officers who patrol the Citadel and respond to emergencies. Investigation, detectives who puzzle out the truth behind crimes and bring perpetrators to justice. Customs, screens the thousands of passengers and cargo containers that pass through the Citadel's ports every day. Network, deals with cybercrimes like identity and copyright theft, hacking and viral attacks, and illegal artificial intelligence. Yeah, no problem, Sean. Thank you very much for hanging out. I'm sorry it was a little duller than normal, but just one more quick word for those of you. This is the itch page for Mr. LeBlanc, and there's a lot of fun stuff there. I was talking a little bit about his presentation abilities and that, but I think if you guys are looking for a diversion, especially when I go offline tonight, oh my god, it's almost 4 in the morning. Yeah, I need to wrap up. I'm giving myself 8 minutes. I don't think I'm going to get through all of these. But do check out that website. It's a lot of fun, so. Special Response deals with hostage situations, bombs, heavily armed criticals. It is in the unlikely event that attackers board the Citadel, they are also the front line of defense armed with military-grade equipment. Patrol, the naval arm, with ships stationed throughout the Citadel cluster. Unlike other divisions, they are rarely seen in the Citadel, nor do they stay in one place for long. Joining CSEC is prestigious. Applications must be sponsored by a Citadel counselor or the ambassador of an associate council race. Generally, applicants have many years of distinguished service in the military or police forces of their nation, but an inexperienced applicant with demonstrable talent will be fairly considered. CSEC and the Spectres are often at odds. Many CSEC members, notably current executor Veneri Palin, believe that allowing Spectres to be above the law is a dangerous practice. The actions of Saren Artreus lend credence to this position. The Spectres, in turn, are aggravated when CSEC's dedication to procedure and due process hampers their investigations. How much more do we have? Oh god, yeah. I'm gonna do the foundations and then I'm gonna call it for tonight because I actually wound up doing a full duration cast, and I'm tired, and I need to host someone. So, Citadel Station foundations. The undersides of the wards between the inhabited superstructures and the impenetrable outer hull are called the foundations. These dangerous areas are filled with life support systems and power plants. Officially, only the Keepers are allowed in the foundations. In reality, the foundations are the slums of the Citadel, home to criminals, minorities, transients, and the occasional stateless exiles. Some stay in the foundations of their own will. Others end up there when the opportunities they sought on the Citadel do not come. The station's recycling systems are located in the foundations. These manufacture a variety of artificial organic pastes that can be eaten for sustenance. They are free and nutritious, but nearly tasteless and of an unpleasant texture. Poorer Citadel residents quickly become adept at dressing up this bland fare with sauces and spices, while imported foodstuffs are a popular luxury of the wealthy. See, I really want to go down to statistics, but I am going to call it. So let's find out who is streaming tonight so I can put you in the hands of somebody a little bit more talented. So Melee Mage is somebody who hangs out in this channel every once in a while. He's playing a game called Grand Kingdom, which I have never seen or heard of before. So, one, I'm a little curious what he's playing. Number two, I don't know if he just started, but it's a little bit thinner than I think I normally see with him. It's been a while since I've seen him, so I'd love it if you guys would come along and show some support. I have no idea other than the fact that he is a very friendly guy and somebody who's been very supportive of my own broadcast. So I can speak to his character, but I can't say anything about the game that he's playing. So I hope you guys enjoy it. It's very late for me, so I may not hang out for a very long time. But if you guys could come along and show him a bit of support and see if it's your sort of thing, I would appreciate that. I will just give you a quick warning in terms of what's coming up for the stream. It is Remembrance Day, and so Monday is a holiday. I have the day off work, and I have been trying to make sure that I actually take holidays, and that includes the stream. So it is possible that I will not do Crusader Kings on Monday. Depends how I feel, but I am trying to be rather strict in terms of making sure that I take some time for myself on holidays. However, I have been given a key to a game I'm actually very interested in covering. And so what I may wind up doing is I may broadcast it on the weekend, and that'll be sort of my replacement for Monday. And I'm not going to say what the game is. I think I will leave that as a surprise for you. So most likely what will happen will be there will be Elder Scrolls on Tuesday. And there may be, there's a very strong likelihood actually that there will be a broadcast on the weekend. But in terms of my regular streams, Tuesday, Elder Scrolls. I believe I will be back on Wednesday, so that'll be Cultist Simulator, and then we'll figure out what we're doing Friday. But anyways, I leave you in the capable hands of Melee Mage, and we will see you sometime on the weekend or Tuesday. Have a good one, guys.